Man, that intro is a banger. What is going on, people? Welcome to the Astrolabe. Once again, I have the serial killer impersonator himself, Ricky, joining us today. How's it going, Ricky?
It's going.
Ricky, Dicky.
Yeah, last time I was Dicky.
Yeah.
Now I'm Ricky, and then I'll be Sticky.
Oh, good to know. So you guys know you have something else to look forward to. That reminds me of the joke you told me just before we went live.
Well, don't spoil it. I want to hit everyone with that one again later.
Okay, I won't. Oh, what's going on, everybody? Do me a favor, hit the like button. We have got an action-packed lab for you today. We're going to. It's kind of funny. Cooper has spent most of the last couple of months, mostly out of the loop. He deleted Twitter and Discord off of his phone for at least a while. Are they still? You still have them off your phone?
Yeah, I mean, I can click on links and look at stuff on a browser, but I don't go out of my way to do that. And I'm not logged in, so I can't scroll through comments and get lost in there. It's just someone sends me, I can see a tweet. And then as far as Discord goes, it's still on my phone, but I took it off the home page and I turned off the notifications except for DMs. So all the people who need to get a hold of me can get a hold of me, but yeah.
Well, it was funny. You and I were on the phone maybe, I think it was about a week ago, maybe a week, 10 days, something like that. And you were like, hey, a question. What is this, like, the rare Vances thing? What does that, is this like Pokemon or something like that? And it made me laugh because that was one of those things that made it really clear that you haven't been, that's how far out of the loop that you've been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because at that point, the Rare Vances thing was probably 3 weeks old, something like that. It was like the defining meme. Yeah. So that's what it was clear to me. I was like, okay, Cooper's really been living in the wilderness, living in the, what'd you call it, like the pasture lands. You're just out skipping through the butterflies and the wildflowers, enjoying the peace and satisfaction of being away from all the hustle and bustle of
every
internet.
couple days I'll hop on Twitter on my laptop and just kind of see what everyone's up to. But broadly speaking, I've kind of checked out. I was already, I was never really active on Twitter. I was mostly just lurking, but I did a lot of lurking, and I don't do so much lurking anymore.
$2 super chat from See You in the Camp. He says, MLB opening day, go Twins. I haven't followed baseball now. 10-year younger me would be absolutely horrified to hear this from me, but I haven't followed baseball hardly at all for a very long time. But I now know that this means that when I want to go look for trending topics, if I'm trying to figure out what people are talking about, news related or whatever, to get content for the show, I'm going to have to wade through a bunch of MLB headlines and stuff now. Same thing happens in the fall when the NBA starts their season up. I'm like, oh, okay. So every time I try to go do something, I'm going to have to wade through a bunch of NBA names and teams and everything. Kate says, go Yankees. All right. So we're going to talk about memes here today.
Would I be considered a Yankee, being from Michigan?
I think so. I mean, you're not a New York Yankee, but in the broader sense, I think.
Am I a Yank?
Related to that, am I, being a born and raised original native of Washington, is that Yank? Is Washington Yank culture?
Well, and you were born in Vegas, weren't you? Technically.
I was born in Reno. Yeah,
Reno,
I was there,
okay,
and I was
Reno.
there for 9 months. But I spent, I don't know, 25 years basically in the greater Seattle area. So I'm definitely like a Pacific Northwest person, but I think there's like whatever Yankee culture was, I think West Coast people are not Yankees. They're not Southerners, they're not Yankees, they're something else. This kind of ties into I'm considered a carpetbagger. Okay, that's fair. I can take
It's like
that.
the New Englanders and the Northeast types. I don't relate to them at all.
Yeah, you're Midwest boy.
Yeah, you get like halfway across Pennsylvania and these people start to become alien. They're really passive aggressive and they use a lot of words to make really narrow points. I know a couple of guys like that. Really annoying.
Just hate him. Just can
Yeah.
hardly spend a moment with them. Would definitely never get involved in any large projects with them.
Yeah, or like, start a company with them.
I don't remember why I was talking about that. Yankees, and you said Yankees. Are we Yankees? That's
I
actually
say
something.
War of Northern Aggression. Am I absolved of Yank?
I think I've probably said when I catch myself, when I'm like, I start to say Civil War, and then I'm like, no, it wasn't a Civil War. I think I've said war between the states. So does that put me in like maybe you're a little more on the Yank side of things, like, and then or sorry, on the southerner side of things, and I'm a little more on the like neutral. Maybe I'm just a neutral third party here.
I had family members who fought on both sides, the Union and the South. I had family members who were slave owners and family members who were abolitionists.
I wouldn't be surprised if you had family members who were slaves, because
Maybe
you've got
there's
quite a
some
bit
Irish
of
in
Irish
there.
in you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a direct descendant of John Adams.
Look at you, heritage American.
That's right. Actually, John Alden and Priscilla Alden, who came over on the Mayflower and are signatories on the Mayflower Compact. That is like my 10th fucking whatever great grandfather.
Interesting. So you don't see
I'm a-
yourself as European, do you?
Not at all.
Yeah. You're an American.
I have no idea what that even means.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see how people would not see this as inevitable. That just because we came from Europe originally, like our people came from Europe originally, there's a certain point in time where you wouldn't say like, oh, your people came from this place 20,000 years ago, so therefore you are that place. Obviously, there's some point in there where it becomes clear that you're just a completely separate people. And,
Yeah, oh yeah.
And now, for you, you're talking like probably 15 plus generations.
The first ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, 400 years for like this is there. Your lineage has no relationship to Europe. You're so far removed from it now that the only thing you could be is American.
My maternal side, my grandparents' came from Germany and from the Netherlands. So that's a little more recent, but my dad's side, that's all old blood.
My
Southern aristocracy.
I'm overwhelmingly British, Irish, German, and Scandinavian. Those are the most predominant. Then I've got like a little bit of Polish and a couple smaller things. But what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. They came. So my most recent ancestors, I think, were probably late 1800s. I think they came over during the time of Great American Prosperity, the golden age of America.
Yeah.
They came over from Sweden and Norway.
About the time when my maternal great grandparents came over.
Mm-hmm. And then
come to think, I know my Irish ancestors who. So on my dad's side, that was the slave owning English type that came, and then on my my dad's maternal line, that actually goes back to like there's like I think Irish Queen Mary, like Queen Mary's family or whatever. So there's like Irish royalty there, and then they came somewhere at that point, somewhere in there they came over on the Mayflower. But I do know there's a pretty good chunk of them that were sharecroppers in the South. So I would not be surprised if some of them were slaves, a couple generations prior.
How long has your family been in Michigan?
It depends. On my mom's side, probably 160 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My dad's side, that's all like southern Mississippi, Florida, that area.
Mm-hmm. I don't know my mom's side very well.
My dad did grow up in Detroit.
Okay.
but he was born in Florida, I think, and most of his family was in Mississippi and Louisiana in that area.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know my mom's side of the family very well. I know my dad's side quite a bit better. And they came from Michigan and Minnesota. So my dad's my dad's mom came from Michigan. She was actually in I want to say in Ann Arbor, somewhere in there. And then my dad's side came from Alexandria, Minnesota. So yeah, that's I guess I was born in Reno and grew up in Washington State, but my best known heritage of mine immediately within the United States would be Midwest. It would be Minnesota, Michigan. Is Minnesota considered Midwest?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think Midwest goes I think Midwest goes out to
Colorado. I
don't know if it goes quite. I mean, I've heard that. I don't know if it goes quite that far, but yeah, maybe. I mean, Iowa, Nebraska, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Up to like maybe the first half of Pennsylvania is about as far east as I'll grant.
Yeah, right. It's funny to call that Midwest because Pennsylvania is like really freaking far east of my entire awareness of. I'm a total West Coast guy. I've been in every western half of the state or western half of the country state multiple times and know it extremely well. And that's to go from the western point of the country to the midpoint of the country is a really freaking long distance.
Yeah.
And then to go from there to Pennsylvania is a really long ways. So you call Pennsylvania Midwest is like it really
2 full days of driving nonstop.
At least, yeah. So that totally hails back to you could tell referring to that area as the Midwest has been around for a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah, is Montana? Would you consider Montana Midwest?
No, not really. I think you've got Midwest, which is really defined by being much more plains oriented and it's flatter, a lot more farmland, that sort of thing. You have that in the eastern part of Montana, but Montana's split by the Rockies, and I think that's probably the next like designation point would be the Rockies. You have the Rockies, then you've got like the Southwest, and then you have the West Coast. There's the Rockies mountain range, and then there's the Cascades mountain range is pretty significant as well, running up through California and Oregon and into Washington. 2 very large mountain ranges. So yeah, I would say Montana is probably closer to Pacific Northwest, but it's one of those that kind of gets split. Anyways, let's get started. I've got this first one here. This had me hyped at 2:00 in the morning when I scrolled past this one. I feel like I've been in a really quality slop drought lately. I've squeezed out all my reserves and I've been waiting for a good reload. And the last few days have served as a very good reload. But this may be the best.
The human killed the prophet of regret. Who was it? Who do you think? The demon is here?
I think if you gave me an hour nonstop of that, I would probably I don't know, I would like die of dehydration.
When did Halo 2 come out?
Halo 2 would have been like 2004, 2005, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Slutty Mouse is 2004.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, man, Breaking Benjamin. That just as soon as I heard that guitar riff at the beginning, I was just instantly transported back 20 years. and I was a
I
young,
remember, dude.
wet
I
behind
remember
the
my
ears.
first time playing through Halo 2's campaign, and you get to like 2/3 of the way through the story, and you're on the mission, everything's blowing up around you, and then that song starts playing.
Yes. Oh,
Got the chills.
boo. Junk Sock says Breaking Benjamin is Creed levels of slept on now. I fully endorse this take. I think this is a tremendous take. We're ahead of the curve. We're going to see here just how ahead of the curve our little corner of the internet is in just a minute. But we are driving these cultural trends. So I think it's time to bring back Breaking Benjamin.
Halo 2 had the best campaign out of the 3 games, in my opinion.
I don't think I was never a really big campaign guy. I've played the Halo 3 campaign multiple times. I think I played the Halo 4 campaign.
Oh man,
and I think I played the Halo 2 one.
The first time you play as the Arbiter, I was like, wow, my brain melted, man. So cool. The game was so good.
Now you get mad whenever I play as the
In multiplayer, yeah,
right.
you play as an elite.
He has an elite, yeah.
Because allegedly it protects your head from getting sniped as easy or something.
Doesn't
give me any problems.
Yeah, that's fair. But I have heard, in playing with with some of our guys, I have had people complaining like, I hit you in the head.
Pro tip. If you're, Matt and I tested this the other day because I was getting lunges on him way faster than he was getting lunges on me. And it turns out because the elite is like hunched over and his head is, the hitbox is forward, you can lunge. If you're playing as a Spartan, you can lunge them 3 feet before they can lunge you. So
yes.
You have swords.
Yeah, if you're playing with swords, and I would say hammer's probably the same, any of those melee weapons, you do not want to play as the elite because it has a distinct disadvantage. That was making me insane. Like, how are we not tying? We should at least be tying. Why am I just dying every single time? And so we actually sat down and tested it out, and we moved towards each other until our reticles turned red, and his turned red probably 3 feet before mine.
Mm-hmm.
Join the Kingpill Discord if you want to get involved in some Halo action.
Anyway, we're 20 minutes in. We haven't even started yet.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Here's where we kick it off. We have got another Paul Suda recap video.
All right.
Week 10. I haven't watched it. I've kept up my end of the bargain here. I don't watch it. Eye of the Tiger. That's all I know about it. Let's go.
Captain America. Captain America.
Rob, I can't believe it.
My jaw's on the floor.
He did it. Hey.
Shut up. Shut up. Everybody shut up. Shut up, Rob.
I like it.
And we're going to be ending sanctuary cities if we find it necessary to do in certain major areas. And we may just end the entire thing altogether because it's just a way of protecting criminals.
Both our working people, our populists, and our innovators gathered here today have the same enemy. And the solution, I believe, is American innovation.
The president's been clear that he has tremendous respect for Justice Roberts and believes it's essential the Supreme Court crack down and stop this assault on our democracy from these radical, rogue judges that are usurping the powers of the presidency and laying waste to our entire constitutional system.
We should go to one-day voting. We should go to voter ID and just one other thing, proof of a thing called citizenship in the United States. Wouldn't that be nice?
It's really important. A lot of other countries have threatened Greenland, have threatened to use its territories and its waterways to threaten the United States, to threaten Canada, and of course to threaten the people of Greenland. So we're going to check out how things are going there.
I'll be known as the fertilization president, and that's not bad. That's not bad. I've been called much worse.
No more quotas, no more ridiculous mumbo jumbo, no more diversity trainings. We believe the real strength and the real diversity in the United States Marine Corps is that you all come from every walk of life, come from every corner of America, and you have got the strength and the purpose to win the nation's wars, and that is what the Marine Corps is going to do, just like it's done for damn near 250 years.
Go with this and be victorious, Mr. President. This cross is an everlasting symbol of peace and an invincible trophy, a sign of divine strength and guidance. With this cross, I pray you bring peace to the world and make America invincible.
It's so uncomfortable.
Oh, oof. Her palms are fucked.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think her teeth probably are too. That was that was the meme for a day. That was the chick yelling at a guy on the subway and tried to grab his hat. Oh, Paul Suda, man. Paul Suda has done it again, but he's actually done it twice. Because look at this. He whipped this one out quick last night, and this is an intro into the Ghibli meme. So I guess a little bit of background here. If you're not on Twitter, this is
You know what I just noticed?
what?
You know how you pronounce GIF incorrectly?
Uh-huh.
I think you also pronounce Ghibli incorrectly.
I've never heard it said. I asked Grok, and Grok said that there's the common pronunciation is Ghibli, and that then there's like the Japanese pronunciation, which is a little bit different. But I had no idea. I asked Grok. Grok said Ghibli, and so I'm running with that. If it's Ghibli, whatever, doesn't matter to me. I genuinely had no idea. I've never been a Japanese animation guy to any extent whatsoever.
Nope.
So this is, I mean, I see the art style. I like the art style. It's, it's nice. It's whimsical. It's clean. It seems...
Yeah, and this particular studio, like they've got some interesting, some decent movies. Some good movies, I'd say. I've watched a couple of them with my wife and kids because my wife loves them. But that's about as anime as I can handle. Anything more than that, like the super weeb shit, I can't do that.
Uh-huh. Well, I was thinking they kind of, it almost is like an Aryanized anime.
Yeah. Because
all it's a little more round-eyed and, yeah. So this meme format came from, I guess it was ChatGPT 4.0, one of their new models, that somebody realized that it works really well to take an image and have it remake it in Studio Ghibli, whatever, format. And I don't know where it started, but I know that I was on Twitter and all of our guys were suddenly posting these in the space of a couple hours. People were going through and redoing every single meme format you've ever seen. Every single image you've ever seen on the internet, every famous image has been redone in this format. I have never seen a meme go from beginning to thorough, complete saturation of every single corner of the internet in the space of like a single day. This went bigger, faster then that meme of the chick face planting, the Vances, the rare Vances, even those ones kind of percolated for a little while before they really started to pick up. This thing went full nuclear immediately, which is kind of fascinating. It started with our little circle of guys, from what I can tell, but then everybody was doing it, and they were all doing it in a, I don't know, like a not very cynical way. There was something that was almost kind of wholesome about it. You've got all these different people who are all like, oh, hey, this is fun. Let me remake this image or that image. It's a very fascinating sociological kind of phenomenon, the way it was birthed and went total complete penetration immediately. So I've got a number of these to show you guys here, but we're going to start with this video from Paul Suda. You might want to mute when you're not talking, Cooper. Let's see if the people
I'm making a bunch of
think
noise.
so. I could hear you when you scooted away and everything.
Oklahoma City bombing, Kurt Cobain, Pokemon, Tiger Woods, MySpace, Monsanto, GMOs. Harry Potter, Twilight, Michael Jackson dies, nuclear accident, Fukushima, Japan, Crimea Peninsula, Cambridge Analytica, Kim Jong-un, Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world was turning. We didn't start the fire. No, we didn't light it, but we're trying to fight it. More war in Afghanistan, Cubs go all the way again. Obama, Spielberg, explosion, Lebanon. Unabomber, Bobby bombing, Boston Marathon, balloon boy, boron, terror, QAnon. Trump gets impeached twice. Polar bears got no ice. Fire fest, Black Parade, Michael Phelps, Y2K, Boris Johnson, Brexit, Kanye West and Taylor Swift. Stranger Things, Tiger King, ever given Suez. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't start the fire. No, we didn't light it, but we're trying to fight it. Sandy Hook, Columbine, Sandra Bland, Tammy Rice, ISIS, LeBron James, Shinzo Abe blown away. Meghan Markle, George Floyd, Burj Khalifa, Metroid, Fermi, Paradise, Venus and Serena.
Just incredible. Paul Suda, you're a magician, man. He cranked this out so fast yesterday. This is... imagine showing this to your grandparents. Imagine like going back to the 90s and showing this to someone. They'd be like, well, I know the song, but a bunch of the references in the song, I don't recognize those. And what the hell is all of this? What is happening? And I think every single one of those images meant something to me. This is incredible. So here's some examples. Generational president. This works so well. Trump in this style, standing there at the McDonald's. Like, these are going to be, many of these are going to replace the previous reaction memes for this, I think, because it adds a layer to the memeing, which was another fascinating thing. I've got a couple here coming on. It's just remarkable what these AI models are able to do. Here's Father Calvin Robinson getting into it. So there's that one there, and this one here. That's interesting. So it produced, different people had it produce the same image, and it did it in different ways. Very wholesome, very whimsical. Sorry for those who are just listening. This little segment of the show of this one is going to be very visually oriented. I don't know how else you talk about an internet meme apart from showing it. You've got the no black pilling, no fucking black pilling. I had to show this one for the lab.
It's amazing that AI, this is incredible. You just put a picture in there and it spits this out.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Just easily, simply, straightforward. Wait until I've got a video coming up here on the actual production of this art style from the studio that is the exact opposite of that.
Oh, I believe it.
This one here, some people will get it, others will not. Here's where the meme is just reaching levels of meta heretofore never discovered. If this was, I gotta wonder if this was an intentional viral marketing campaign from this brand, the Saratoga Sparkling Waters. If it was, those people are brilliant. Give them every single dollar in the world. That was fantastically executed. And then it even reached the White House. So you guys, this picture was going around a few days ago, about a week ago. Virginia Basura Gonzalez, very close to Basura, a previously deported alien felon convicted of fentanyl trafficking, was arrested by ICE in Philadelphia after illegally re-entering the U.S. She wept when taken into custody. And the White House account posted this. People are very upset about this. But it's clear, once again, that we have a poster-occupied government. And then, after a few hours of the memes, then the meme videos began. So here is Studio G presenting Spirited Oy Vey.
In a world where secrets lie buried beneath the streets, one neighborhood holds a mystery that defies perceive. For years, they walked above, unaware of the shadows below. In the heart of Brooklyn, beneath an ancient synagogue, a hidden passage was forged. By hands unknown, for reasons untold. They said it was faith. They said it was destiny. But what they uncovered was a labyrinth of danger and defiance. Now the truth breaks free, and the world above collides with the world below. From the ashes of history comes a story of courage, of chaos, and of secrets that refuse to stay buried. This summer, the chase begins, where the law hunts the lawless. From the masters of Studio Ghibli, a descent into the underworld where loyalty is a lie and trust is a weapon. The tunnels hide more than faith. They guard an empire. And the deeper you go, the darker it gets. One crew, one secret, one way out. Spirited Oy Vey. From Studio Ghibli. Coming soon to a theater near you.
When he pops up here, where was it? Look at his face.
One secret, one way out. Spirited Oy Vey. From Studio.
Oh man, shout out to Bone GPT for this one. Just brilliant.
Incredible.
Video was made in Bone Paint. Ghibli was made in ChatGPT. Audio was made in Udio. Deep voice narration written in Grok. So this here is a fully AI production.
Incredible.
Our propaganda capacity has just gone to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to say that AI is the thing that's going to entrap and enslave us all. And yet, it also serves as a fantastic weapon on our end as well. The guys are dying. Then here is, what if Studio Ghibli directed Lord of the Rings, I spent $250 on Kling credits and 9 hours re-editing the Fellowship trailer to bring that vision to life, and I'll show you exactly how I did it.
The world is changed, and some things that should not have been forgotten were lost. But the Ring of Power has a will of its own.
Evil is stirring in Mordor. The ring has awoken. Sauron needs only this ring to cover all the lands of darkness.
What must I do?
The ring must be destroyed.
Cast back into the fires of Mount Doom.
I know what hunts you. They're coming.
They will find the ring and kill the one who carries it.
You have my sword.
My bow.
And my axe.
You carry the fate of us all, little one.
This task was appointed to you, and if you do not find a way, no one will.
Let us hope that our presence may go unnoticed. They are coming.
We must turn back!
Shall not pass!
You will face evil, and you will defeat it. Even the smallest person can change the course of the future.
I'm glad you're with me.
That is frickin' cool. It only took him 9 hours. This is going to completely change the entire media production landscape. So we are going to have the ability to produce high quality feature length films, documentaries. You could build a Netflix with a very, very small team who masters a few of these tools. You could do it on a shoestring. And we can tell great stories now in a high quality way. Think about how far this has come just since I've started doing the Astrolabe. I started doing the Astrolabe in June of last year. June 1. So what is that? 9 months? 10 months? And I've played a lot of these AI videos, and they're just getting better and better and better. He's got a whole thread here where he describes his process about how he actually created it. I'm not going to go through that here, but you could go to the King Pilled Substack, and there'll be a link to this. Just look for the tweet from PJ Ace that says, "What if Studio Ghibli directed Lord of the Rings?" And you can go read through the thread yourself. Guys, I've got more.
I should actually sit down and watch those movies sometime.
Are you saying you've never seen Lord of the Rings?
I've tried probably half a dozen times to watch it, and I get about 20 minutes in. I'm not a movie guy. I get about 20 minutes in, and then I just doze off and fall asleep. I had no problem reading the books, but put me in front of a TV, and I just kind of do one of these.
Cooper's an old man. Confirmed once again.
Yeah.
Well, if you do actually sit down and watch them, watch the extended editions. I know you have a hard time getting through them, but it's definitely worth it.
Are they close to the books?
They're pretty good. I mean, that's a book. Tolkien's books are virtually impossible to actually reproduce in film. But
not anymore.
Not yet. True, not anymore. There's actually, I mean, I guess we're just waiting until you get the autist who goes through and decides to create a film production of literally every single word spoken in the book, every single event, every single character.
Like a 10-hour movie?
Oh, it would probably be like a 20-hour movie or something. But yeah, like you could theoretically do that now. You could make it a TV series. I don't know
Yeah.
how much of it, because some of that stuff is like when you read it, you can
How
read
much
through
did
something
Amazon
fast.
blow on the Rings of Power show? Wasn't it like $1 billion or something?
Oh, I don't even
For
want
that
to know.
trash garbage series.
Oh, hey, that's a good idea.
$1 billion.
Kate says Cooper needs to do a matinee watching of Lord of the Rings. Maybe we could do a live watching of Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
with
we could do
Cooper
that.
sometime.
Can we start at like 7 in the morning?
Yeah, right. In college, I had some buddies in college. We sat and we watched all three of them, the extended editions, all three of them, nonstop, back to back. It's something like, I don't know, 12 hours worth of movies or something like that. Great times, great times. All right, let's keep it moving. Here is What If Interstellar was a Ghibli animation? Another good one. And all right, Cooper, I'm ready to kick you off. Here you go. Run with it.
Dude, I didn't even finish season 1. I got to like episode 4 or whatever when they had some like mention only warder from like the prequel or something. They had like this whole narrative arc over 3. They only have like 8 episodes the whole season, and they waste a whole bunch of time on this narrative arc with this dude, and he dies so that they can have a scene with Lan crying. The fuck was that shit? And I didn't. After that episode, I was like, okay, well, the homosexual showrunner ruined this. Surprise. So that's the end of that.
He's talking about Wheel of Time. For those who are just listening, Waylon Bro says, if you thought the Rings of Power show was hot garbage, wait till you see what they did to the Wheel of Time.
I know.
Cooper, if you want to get Cooper talking about something, get him excited, start talking about the Wheel of Time. I've made it through the first, I think, 20 minutes of the audiobook of the first book. 10 memberships from Slosher, gifted to our excellent listeners. Thank you, my man. We've got a maple syrup American chipping in here. Very gracious. So Taylor Brown, Glonk Respecter, SB, Seasider, Andrew Starr, Judge Maddie, Josh Ham, Fat Chipmunk, Politically Catholic, and Nicholas Bauman. Welcome to the King Pilled. You are now one step closer to being the best person you can be. Another one. Incredible. It's no wonder that our guys are just winning everything, because you cannot fight meme magic. And every single one of these iterations of, I don't know, culture, technology, whatever it is just leveling up the power of the meme magic higher and higher. This was my timeline yesterday. My whole timeline got Ghiblified. This is my For You page. I open up my phone. This is 10 minutes to 2 a.m. So 1:51 a.m. I open up the Twitter app. I'm looking at my For You page. And the first, the first 17 tweets were all Ghibli memes. And then it just kept going. There's some bangers in here. You got Abe, see a space cowboy. You've got the Wood meme. You've got the Trump McDonald's. You got Joker. You got Vance. You got Patrick Bateman. You've got the
Jacob.
yeah, you got the Afghanistan withdrawal. Here, I'll slow it down a little bit.
Could you? Are you able to make one right now?
I think I heard that they disabled it on ChatGPT. Like as soon as it turned into a meme, someone made Ghibli is over. Muppets are now. So you've got a Trump Muppet. You've got the Afghanistan withdrawal. Jakob. Oh, okay, some normal ones. There we go. Oh, we've got tired Ben Affleck. We've got the lady yelling and pointing at the cat. We've got Elon balancing spoons on his fingers at some White House dinner. We've got a Seinfeld meme. We've got someone made, what is this? This is the like Gigabrain autist turned into an elephant, a war elephant. Someone made that. Someone went through and they did every single Chud Jack, Soy Jack, Woe Jack, Wife Jack, every one of the Jacks. Oh, there's a dark one. A couple of them. Look at that.
Oh, man. I want to see the lizard people one.
The lizard people one?
Yeah, you got all like the lizard standing in a room laughing.
Oh, yes.
Like all the presidents or
You
whatever.
got Mike Vining.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's a good one. This is Norman Rockwell style. You've got the Angela Merkel leaning on the table, all the leaders looking at Trump, and Trump just has his arms crossed. Master and Commander.
I really like the Norman Rockwell.
Yeah. There's some really good Norman Rockwell. There's a good one. Right there. They have to go back. Stalin. This is... I just opened it. AOC. Mike Pence. What the hell? Oh, now we got Wallace and Gromit. AOC crying at the fence with a Pepe on the other side. Tiananmen Square. Is that a Yarvin? I think that's a Yarvin.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, husband. It just keeps going. BAP. The algorithm just completely lost the plot yesterday. This is how deep the penetration was. So here's an actual serious thing now. This is very interesting. So Studio, this is from Trung Fan, says, since Studio Ghibli is trending, worth noting the mind-boggling effort Hayao Miyazaki and his team put into a film. Each film has 60 to 70,000 frames, all hand-drawn and painted with watercolor. This 4-second clip, The Wind Rises, took one animator 15 months to do. In the documentary 10 Years with Hayao Miyazaki, the legendary Japanese filmmaker talks to one of his animators after they complete the crowd scene. The exchange is gold. Miyazaki says, "Good job." Yamamori says, "It's so short, though," and Miyazaki says, "But it was worth it." The animator gets a second of joy. He's pumped, but on to the next. So the clip is going to play. The first 4 seconds of this here is this clip that took them 15 months to produce. There you go. 15 months to produce that. And now now every single picture in the history of humanity is getting Ghibli-ized in a single day.
Drawing a crowd takes time and effort, so animators generally avoid it, but not Miyazaki. Everyone gathers once a week to view the rushes. This allows Miyazaki to check the completed shots with his own eyes. This shot is only 4 seconds long. It took the team a year and 3 months to complete it.
That is some epic autism. Mr. Oblivion says you have to admire a guy who has that kind of attention to detail and patience. Yeah, no kidding. Like think about the discipline and the dedication to perfection that you would have to have. Like, you get up, you go to work, you work on this scene all day, you go home, you eat food, you take a shower, you go to bed, you get up the next morning, and you do that for 15 months. And at the end of it, you have a 4-second clip to show for it. But it's worth it. Because you're doing a thing. You're building something. You're creating something. Of all of the Asian cultures, the Japanese are the ones that I probably would be... Like, I would go visit Japan. I don't really have any interest in basically any of the other ones. Nothing against them. It's just not my thing. But Japanese, it'd be cool to go see Japan.
Now imagine making a 90-minute movie.
Yeah. Well, so 4 seconds takes you 15 months. Then it'd take you like 30 years to make a 90-minute movie. So I wonder how those guys feel about seeing their art form now being mass-produced, cranked out by an AI slop generator. X is really just becoming an AI slop generator itself. There's probably levels to that one. Glonk Spectre says that used to be the standard for elite craftsmanship. Now it's just the tism. Indeed. Okay. On to other things. The libs, the Euros, we talked about the Europors yesterday. The sentiment we've been talking about here, well, it is spread to the elected officials. What's your opinion of Marjorie Taylor Greene? What do you think of her?
Red flags all the way down. Like I would not date her.
Yeah, no kidding.
Total loon, but I also kind of like her.
Yeah, I think
because
she's useful.
a total loon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so she can go and do and say things like this.
Yeah, she's off her rocker.
Anybody else?
The Defense Secretary
What country are you? Wait, what country are you from?
From the UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
Okay,
and you no. You should care about your own borders.
Do you care about American lives being put at risk?
Let me tell you something. Do you care about people from your country? What about all the women that are raped by migrants?
Do you care
No,
about
by migrants. No, do you care? Okay, you're done.
Do you care about American lives being put at risk?
You know what? I don't care. I don't.
Members fighting for your country.
I don't care about
and
your
vice
fake news.
president
Do you have a relevant question? Yeah, this is an American journalist. Thank you.
I'm an American, and I'd like to hear your answer to what she's asked.
I'm not answering her question
Simp!
because I don't care about her network. If you
What a
would like
cock!
to ask, I can answer.
Do you have any concerns whatsoever about the complete disregard of operational security from the top level of this administration?
You want to know about complete disregard about operational security? You should talk about the Biden administration, how they ripped our borders open to terrorists, cartel, child sex trafficking, human trafficking, and drug trafficking across our borders for 4 years. The Trump administration is doing a great job, and I stand by their statements. I stand by their statements. My comment to you is I'm thankful to President Trump that he is leading us out of wars, that he's ending the war in Ukraine, where American lives could have been killed if Joe Biden was still president today, whether he liked it or not. We're talking about NPR and PBS today. We're talking about fake news that was funded with federal funding from American taxpayers. That's what this is about today, not journalists from the UK that should care about their...
A journalist is being vilified for exposing failings in the way that you're government.
She just follows her. I voted for this. This is exactly what I voted for. For American politicians to stick their hands in the faces of British journos and say, I don't give a shit what you have to say. I don't care about your shithole country. You go back and take care of it. We're here to do America.
Yeah, I like it.
The guys are discussing where she is on the hot crazy matrix.
Very much in the how are we plotting this graph? Like 10?
Yeah, 10 and 10.
Well, 10 on the crazy. Okay, maybe like 8. Maybe 8.5.
Yeah, I'd say like an 8.5. Yeah.
Yeah, 8.5. And then on the hot, I don't know, like a 6.5.
Oh, you're more generous than I was going to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. 4, 5. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to see that, a member of Congress who does actually like work out and take care of herself and seems active and ultimately, I've done the rant before about friends and allies and enemies, and I would put her squarely in the allies camp, and maybe even could potentially be a friend, but ultimately, like, you got to see her for what she is, which is
Thank you, Ninja.
Which is a 6.5 for her age. That's fair. Yeah. You got to. She is like the definition of a made person. She is a representative of interests, and the interests that she's representing are very closely aligned with ours. So
she's got a weird face.
Yeah,
it's like the shape of her face. She's got like extra wide jaw or something, or just a big head. I don't.
We should really drag it out and be super critical of women's appearance here on the show. For the like 4 female listeners that we have, just start making them really uncomfortable.
Yeah, ladies, send in your photos. We'll critique them.
We'll
rate you.
DM us pictures of you, and we'll bring them up on the screen and critique you in real time. DMs are open. Oh, man. Okay. Let's listen to our president.
No matter how many surgeries you have or chemicals you inject, if you're born with male DNA in every cell of your body, you can never become a woman. You're not going to be a woman. And that's why last month I proudly signed a historic executive order to ban men from competing in women's sports, and it was very popular and very...
It's the bare minimum, but it's happening. We now have the president directly saying, there's that 4chan green text. You're never going to be a woman. No matter what you do, you will never be a woman. The president himself is now saying it. And then Paul Suda, his recap video spoiled it just a little bit, but this one here, as Ben Braddock says, this is instant canon. This is an all-timer.
You're doing great on it, and we're going to have tremendous goodies in the bag for women too. The women, between the fertilization and all of the other things that we're talking about, it's going to be great. We're joined today. Fertilization. I'm still very proud of it. I don't care. I'll be known as the fertilization president. That's okay. That's not bad. That's not bad. I've been called much worse. Actually, I like it, right? I like it. Thank you. We're joined. You're doing great on it.
Oh, the boys are back, man.
Yeah, man. The fertilization president. We've got the true Chad, the one who fertilizes all. Prima nocta for Donald Trump. Slosher says hate speech from 3 years ago is now policy. And my wife says, I voted for goodie bags. My wife wants goodie bags for the women. Check out this young king here. Speaking of the boys being back, this is Rep. Lucas Schubert from Montana, Catholic, youngest state representative in the Western U.S. He says, on Monday, I presented HJ 22, a resolution to acknowledge that Christ is king, to the Judiciary Committee. Here is my testimony. We got young men doing stuff, and it's good to see. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hold on. Speaking of young kings, what do you got? Who is that? You gotta come over here.
Curly Bear.
Curly Bear?
Uh-huh.
You gonna say hi to everyone? Who do you see on the screen?
Uncle Cooper.
It's Uncle Cooper.
Hi, buddy.
You can just talk.
This is Curly Bear.
It's Curly Bear.
Can they post Curly Bears? They posted a boot. Can you
Yeah.
ask Mama to post a poop?
He wants Mama to post a poop. Do you think poop is funny? What did you tell Mommy you want us to call you the other day?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Remember Mommy's uncle's name?
What is it?
Uncle Dick?
I wanted you to call me Uncle Dick.
Well, that wasn't what Mommy said. Mommy said you wanted us to call you Eastwood Dick. Is that true?
Oh, yeah? The
Yeah?
poops!
Look, there's poops!
Thank you, Mommy. Thank you for posting the poops.
Can you hear him, Cooper?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at all the poops! And peacocks, too!
Can you ask them to post Curly Bears?
You can do it right here. See, when you talk, they can hear you.
Please post Curly Bears.
Please post curly bears. You could just post bears. There aren't curly bears directly, but they have some bear emojis they can post. You getting ready for bed?
We're going to pick up Aunt Annie from work.
Oh, okay.
Look at all the poops.
Look at all the poops, and there's some bears. Uncle Cooper posted some bears for you. Mama posted bears and poops.
Do you think, who do you think made those poops?
Who?
Mama.
Mama made those poops?
Uh-huh.
Oh. Are you just going to tell everyone?
It's just super silly.
It's super silly. All right, Daddy needs to keep doing his show, okay? I love you, big guy.
I want to talk to them and hear what they say.
They're not saying anything. They just post comments here. They're just writing them in here, but I don't actually hear their voices.
Well, then why are these here?
So that I can hear the videos that I play on the show. All right. I love you, big guy.
Curly Bear!
Grab him.
He got hurt.
Oh, poor Curly Bear. Maybe you need to take him to Mommy to get some lovies. All right. Close the door behind you, Bubba.
Okay.
Love you, big guy.
Why do you make your door closed when you're doing the show?
So that it stays quiet in here.
Okay. Like talks like a drunk girl.
In what sense? Like
the way he stresses his words and kind of slurs them.
Yeah.
And he's got that sing-songy voice.
Uh-huh, yeah. He's kind of being a little more calm and quiet right now. Usually he's talking at like 150% volume constantly.
And he's a robot monster or something.
Yeah, right. Eastwood Dick. For whatever reason, he does not know what dick means. But my wife has an uncle named Uncle Richard, and she was talking to Eastwood, explaining to Eastwood, and said that to Uncle Richard, and then we call him Uncle Dick. And Eastwood just started laughing at that. Like he thought it was funny. The name Uncle Dick was funny to him, even though he doesn't have any context for what dick means. Just like the sound of the word made him laugh. I was like, he truly is a boy.
My son has begun noticing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Noticing.
So, well, the other day, I don't know, just you talking about your kid made me think about my son. So the other day, Grand Ledge had a shelter in place alert put out. Because apparently there was some dude, the police were chasing some dude around town. He was running around, had a gun. As the story goes, I find out after the fact, once they picked him up over in the park somewhere down by the river, he He was a Facebook marketplace thing, and he was selling a car. And on the north side of town, he meets up with the person who's coming to buy the car. He doesn't actually have a car. Or if he does, it's a dumpy car. He pulls a gun on the dude who's coming to buy it, steals their car, takes off, clearly isn't familiar with town, gets himself like caught up and like trapped in some neighborhood. I don't know. That doesn't really have a way out. There's a couple of neighborhoods like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ditches the car, runs off into the woods, and like an hour later, they find him out in the woods or whatever. But later that day, I get home because I was at work, but I knew about this. My wife was talking to me about it, and my wife had them just kind of. She told them, "Okay, guys, stranger danger. Go in the bedroom. We're shutting the doors, locking all the doors, and all that stuff." So they just hung out in the bedroom, like I don't know, playing video games and eating Oreos or whatever for a couple hours. And I was getting them ready for bed last night or the night before, and I go to tuck them in, and I find all the Oreo wrappers in their bed, and I was like, "What's this about?" And my son's like, "Oh, that's from earlier. There was a black guy with a gun, so we were hanging out in here, and I don't know how he knew that." He just said there was a black guy with a gun. Turns out it was a black dude with a gun who was just in a part of Michigan he wasn't familiar with.
He's just good with patterns, huh?
Yeah, or it's just innate.
Yeah, right.
A black guy with a gun running around town. I'm like, how did you know that?
We have a couple of black families on our road. They're both.
We don't have too many of them in town here.
Yeah. There's
middle
a lot.
Michigan.
There's a lot in Texas. These ones are some of the nicest people. They're fantastic, wonderful neighbors. They're great. But the other day I was out in the front yard late at night, and all of a sudden I heard it. Chirp. I was like,
No way.
You're kidding me. That couldn't have been what it was. It was something else. I stop and listen. About 30 seconds later, chirp.
No way.
Yep. And it was there for 2 or 3 nights. I think it's gone now. I haven't heard it the last couple of days, but it was there for 2 or 3 nights. I couldn't source where it was coming from because we're sort of up on top of a hill and the sounds bounce around sort of funny. So when I walked down the hill, it sounded like it was up the hill. When I walked up the hill, it sounded like it was down the hill. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't source it, but there's 2 houses that I would start with.
My son is 7. To answer the question.
Deacon. Powerful name. Deacon someday. Yeah. All right, so speaking of young kings, here we go. Lucas Schubert, representative from Montana.
Christ over all the world, so that this great state may at last receive the blessings of real liberty, well-ordained discipline, peace, and harmony.
Turn it up.
I bring this resolution to shine.
Okay, I maxed out the volume I have.
The truth and the Christian foundation of our country and Western civilization as a whole, in a time when this country is moving away from God. The United States has a long Christian tradition. In a 1892 Supreme Court case, Holy Trinity v. United States, the Supreme Court called the United States, quote, a Christian nation. Furthermore, one of the founders of the Constitution, Samuel Chase, stated that, quote, by our form of government, the Christian religion is the established religion, end quote. A former Chief Justice of the New York Supreme Court, James Kent, in a ruling, has stated that, quote, we are a Christian people and the morality of the country is deeply engrafted upon Christianity and not upon the doctrines or worship of those impostors. And he furthermore states that, quote, Christianity in its enlarged sense as a religion revealed and taught in the Bible is part and parcel of the law of the land. The second president of the United States and founding father John Adams is well known for having said that, quote,
my ancestor
Constitution was made only.
Was that your ancestor?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that.
For a moral and religious people, it is wholly inadequate to the government of any other, end quote. This resolution doesn't change any laws or appropriate any money. And on the matter of appropriating money to just institutions, as a bill that has already passed the House, House Bill 12, that we voted on, the historic preservation grant, they actually sent $50,000 to a Methodist church in Kalispell. And in House Bill 9, the Cultural and Aesthetics Bill, $10,000 is currently appropriated to the Montana Jewish Project, and the bill is still in the Appropriations Committee. So this bill, again, it is a resolution. It doesn't change any laws. It is simple. It doesn't appropriate any money. As some of the opponents, they may try to base their arguments off of these things. But in the modern era, we see Christians being persecuted around the world, whether it be the massacre of Christians taking place in Syria currently since the fall of Bashar al-Assad, the mass killings of Christians in Sahel countries like Nigeria at the hands of Islamic terrorists that's been going on for decades, or the strong suppression of Christianity in many totalitarian countries like China, North Korea, and Eritrea, and there are many more numerous examples. This resolution is an opportunity for this committee to stand against the persecution of Christians, support the great Christian foundations of our country and culture, and to acknowledge the truth, which regardless of whether or not this resolution passes or not, it remains the same, that Jesus Christ of Nazareth is the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. And with that, I urge a do pass.
Shout out to this guy. Was it quiet?
It was quiet. I could hear it, but it was quiet.
Yeah, I couldn't get it any louder than that.
Is there persecution going on in Eritrea? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't know anything about Eritrea.
Yeah, me neither. Right?
Other than it has something to do with Ethiopia or something.
Yeah, it's one of those shithole countries.
Yeah.
This is. I hope that clips like this, I want to see clips like this go more viral, if for no other reason than just to encourage more young guys to begin getting proactively involved in local politics like this. This kid's in Montana, Montana's 8th State House District. He could be at the start of a long political career. He could work his way up. He could eventually run for Congress or governor or something like that. He's starting early. We need more of this. We need more young guys who are starting to take this seriously. I think it's been, especially coming from like the libertarian circles, there's been people have been very checked out on the idea of running for office or getting involved in government and everything. But especially at the local level like this is where you can really start making a difference. And with the nature of the internet and X being what it is now, you can be a local person who's making a difference at the local level, and you can still have influence outside that. Like this, having a young man who's standing up there and presenting a resolution to acknowledge that Christ is king to the Judiciary Committee for the Montana state government, getting this sort of precedent established and building up momentum behind this, getting the early guys who are willing to go out, take the stand, be willing to take whatever risks or whatever may come from it, is very productive. And this is the time for it now. The vibe shift has only just begun. So we need more of our guys in local politics in the same way that we need our guys in local business. And then you get the marriage of the two. This is how we could start building our civilization. Now, I'm curious to see, Cooper, what your thoughts are on this. Archbishop Elporos of America gives this speech here, and Paul Suda kind of spoiled this one a little bit as well with his recap, but I'll forgive him for it. This is him talking to Trump.
Allow me to offer the congratulations of the Greek American community on your re-election to the presidency of our nation. We all look forward to a bright future for all Americans. I also want to thank you for creating the White House Faith Office, which promises to be an extraordinary collaboration between your administration and all faith leaders. allow me to...
Actually, that was the wrong clip. This is the one that I meant to play.
Through your leadership, you embody the values of our Christian faith and love for the gospel. You remind me of the great Roman Emperor, Constantine the Great. This emperor, your dear Mr. President, is the one who founded and built the magnificent city of Constantinople, my birthplace, known today as Istanbul. It is my great honor to present you with this Holy Cross. This cross is the very symbol that led this great Roman Emperor Constantine to victory. As Christ revealed to him in a vision, he said, "En tuto nica," told the emperor, means go with this and be victorious, Mr. President. This cross is an everlasting symbol of peace and an invincible trophy, a sign of divine strength and guidance. With this cross, I pray you bring peace to the world and make America invincible.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Might have to digest that one for a minute.
I definitely did not expect to log on to the internet a couple days ago and see Archbishop Elporos comparing Trump to Constantine.
Particularly Archbishop Elporos.
Right.
He's a complicated guy.
Yeah, Fenris, nothing ever happens, guys. We've got an Orthodox Archbishop presenting a cross to the President of the United States and comparing him to Constantine. It seems, I mean, based. Like
okay, cool.
But having it come from a Greek.
Yeah, and okay.
It almost makes me kind of view the Greeks a little differently. I don't know if that's fair or not, but I mean it would be one thing to go and just like, make a nice thing and say a prayer and even present him a cross and everything, but to compare him to Constantine.
Saint Constantine.
Yes. Interestingly, he didn't, I guess he said the great Roman Emperor Constantine the Great. He didn't say, but I don't think he said Saint Constantine. Yeah. That took me aback when I saw that. I definitely did not expect to see that.
I was not expecting, when you pulled up, a clip with Archbishop Elporos, I was expecting some lib shit. Because he kind of has a track record. But I was not expecting that. But
yeah,
all right.
Let's go.
I'll take it.
I'm
a big fan of Constantine.
Oh yeah, yep. Incredible things are happening, as they say.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Maha, Big Pharma, RFK side of the world. So first, this is from a couple of days ago. This was March 25. Breaking, CDC and RFK Jr. just canceled $11 billion in COVID funding for state health departments. Apparently in 2025, there was still $11 billion in COVID funding set aside for state health departments. Quote, the COVID-19 pandemic is over and HHS will no longer waste billions of taxpayer dollars responding to a non-existent pandemic that Americans moved on from years ago, a CDC spokesperson said. And Matt Van Swole, who's been a good guy to follow for the stuff going on in North Carolina, he said, my city, Asheville, North Carolina, used COVID-19 funds to build a $500,000 bathroom for homeless people. $500,000 spent creating this.
Uh-huh. I'm sure that's what it was for.
Right, exactly. Also, Jay Bhattacharya was confirmed. And which is a good thing. I also noticed today, not directly related to this, but Elise Stefanik, the representative from New York, who had been nominated to be ambassador to the UN. Trump withdrew her nomination because he said the reason for it was because they need to maintain the thin majority that they have in Congress right now, and so they're not. It was like they don't trust whoever she might end up getting replaced with. They don't want to gamble with that. So they're withdrawing her nomination. Now let me double check to see if it was. I think it was UN ambassador. Yes, nomination to be UN ambassador. I'm wondering if the reason given was a bullshit reason that seems plausible. Hey, we want to protect our thin majority in Congress. But in reality, we're not going to need a UN ambassador because the UN is going bye-bye. And or our membership in the UN is going bye-bye. That's my 4D chess conspiratorial thought of the day. But I've got this clip. I got a number of big pharma things here I've been sitting on for a couple of days. And this is definitely slop, but I think it's a good indicator of the sorts of narratives that are beginning to build and develop, and I think that's a good thing. Big Pharma targeted Eastern Kentucky. A familiar story all around the world put to song, the devil wore a lab coat.
Big Pharma targeted Eastern Kentucky.
Dude, I can't watch this.
It was, hey doc, there's a thing about me. Been working underground since 83. Doctor said I got you the remedy. It'll kill that pain real quick, trust me. Didn't take long, half the town was on it. Didn't ask questions, no, we just popped them. Doctors getting fat from raking in kickbacks. All happened so fast. One man's grave is another man's paycheck. RX meds at our expense. Forget the coal mines, they hit a gold mine. Hooked just on 6 feet of side effects. Like a wolf dressed in sheep's clothes. The devil wore a lab coat.
Yeah, pop country. This clip.
This is like, who was that one dude? The Richmond guy. North of Richmond.
Oh, Oliver Anthony.
Yeah, that guy.
Except
he
was actually good.
Yeah, but this is like pure boomer slop.
Oh yeah, but this is when I think about the Maha people. I think about the people that would watch that and be like, oh yeah, you sing it, girl. Like that's those are the Maha Americans to me. This is absolutely emblematic of them. And that's 27,000, whatever point the person took the screen cap of this. After 18 hours, 27,000 likes on it. So there's a lot of this within the Instagram world. You got the crunchy moms, the RFK loving, anti-vax, whatever, crunchy moms and that whole world. That is RFK's base. That is the core and the heart of it. And they're getting very riled up now that he's in power and he's beginning to do stuff. They're getting activated. So one of the things that has been long rumored now, and the rumors are building up even more, is that he is going to ban pharmaceutical advertising on cable networks. So here's a clip of him from 2023 talking about this.
The media in our country is an extension of the pharmaceutical industry. You know, 75% of advertising revenues now on the mainstream media are now coming from pharma, and that ratio is even higher for the evening news, because the evening news is where you see pharmaceuticals advertised. And, Anderson Cooper has a $12 million a year annual salary. Well, 10 million of that is coming from Pfizer. Oh, his boss is not CNN. His boss is Pfizer. And, they're unashamed, they're unabashed about it. They say, on his program brought to you by Pfizer. Of course, he's not going to tell you the truth about Pfizer's product. He's going to try to sell them to you. He's going to try to scare the hell out of you by saying, if you don't get this, you're going to die.
That's the attack on Big Pharma by removing the ability for Big Pharma to advertise on television is actually really an attack on the corporate media. Because at this point, the corporate media
that's
exists.
the only thing funding them, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that is the sole purpose. So here's a good take on this from Liz Wheeler. She says, if reports are true, and I pray they are, that RFK Jr. is going to ban Big Pharma ads on TV, a massive society earthquake is about to happen on two fronts. Number one, the corporate media will fail. You'll watch before your very eyes as highly paid MSM anchors are fired, networks panic and some shut down, and paychecks aren't paid. The entire business of MSM is a fake business. It's artificially propped up by massive ad dollars from pharma ads. Not because of the return on investment that pharmacies peddling their drugs on TV, but rather because of why pharma buys so many TV ads in the first place, which is to prevent reporting on pharma corruption. Number two, accordingly, when the gravy chain of pharma ad dollars to TV networks stop, we will suddenly see reporting on the corruption of big pharma, drugs, vaccines, medical associations like AAP and AMA, and government regulation agencies like CDC and FDA. Reporting that was previously prohibited because the ad money pharma paid networks was really just a payoff for silence. Pharma knew they didn't sell drugs off those commercials. It was a money laundering scheme to keep reporters silent about the abuses coming out of pharma. Even Roger Ailes once admitted he didn't let his people on Fox report negatively on pharma because it would destroy their bottom line. If reports are true, and I pray they are, that RFK Jr. is going to ban pharma ads on TV, the double revolution of Big Pharma and MSM is about to begin. Can't wait. Absolutely. Why are all my tabs refreshing? This is annoying. So the next thing I've got here is this clip now from Nicole Shanahan. So I had to go double check that this video was actually played in full on YouTube, unedited, before I would play it on here. Because my assumption is that the things that she says in this video would get the channel immediately struck and maybe taken down straight away. But this video, her interview with Allie Beth Stuckey, is posted on YouTube, and it's there. It's been there for several days, and it's not censored at all. So we're going to cross our fingers, and we're going to take the plunge and actually play some of the more, medically edgy things that we've ever played on the stream here.
I was knee deep in autism literature and realized that the world of autism, I can remember very specifically a call I had with a neurologist who and I'm calling about my child, right? Like, I don't know about the politics of autism at that point. I'm just like, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And he just let loose. He goes, the behaviorists have taken over the field of autism. It is biomedical. Neurologists like me that try to get our work and voices out that there's something biomedically going on with these kids. We are all censored. We get no funding. The government completely ignores us, and it ignores the medical needs of these children. So here I'm on the phone. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this information?
Wow.
Like, are you
Providential, though.
Yeah. And he's like, well, okay, fine. For your daughter, I'll help you do an overnight EEG. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, because I'm just like I'm like doing what every mom does. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with my kid and how to help her.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I do more of that, I actually then realized that the behaviorist, including Stanford Autism Center, and ABA and PRT and all of this like behavioral stuff is really being run by individuals that are very conflicted. because they're like trying to establish themselves as being the leaders in autism. And in order to do that, you need money. So within like this period of time, I'm just trying to get my daughter support, and people are trying to fundraise off of her. They're like, oh, you know, I'll help you with this, but I'm going to send you a grant request. So that started happening. And I was like, this is really messed up.
They're trying to get money from you because they know your daughter's diagnosis and they think that you'll support them because of her.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
like, well, that doesn't feel great.
And I'm like, okay, well, there's a conflict. So I'm going to put you guys over there who want money from me for autism, and the people who are actually helping my child, I want to leave unconflicted. But the behaviorists are very aggressive in protecting their narrative, which now I look back and I'm like, that was a red flag.
Yeah.
And there were many red flags along the way.
Sorry, just to clarify, what is the behaviorist narrative about autism?
That autism is a DSM-5 clinical diagnosis. It's a mental illness, like
that you're born with?
that you're born with, or that you develop. It's a developmental illness, like paranoia is a DSM-5 diagnosis. Now, autism is a DSM-5 diagnosis. It's the manual for diagnosing mental disorders.
Yeah.
And this happened. It's been kind of ongoing, and the behaviorists have always believed that like it's just something psychological. Now, you know, at this point, I realize autism is definitely not just behavioral, and it's definitely not just psychological, because my child is showing real signs of medical issues, like screaming pain, inability to control her arms. She like flaps her arms. Biting herself, self-injury. Like she actually cannot speak, and I'm like, why can't she speak?
Yeah.
Like it's not like no amount of speech therapy is helping. At this point, I have her in speech therapy for multiple years. Like, you know, she just actually cannot speak.
Yeah.
She like lost eye contact for a while. Stomach bowel issues, and I'm like, okay, clearly this is not just paranoia and anxiety. Like there's something physical going on here.
And that's what you mean when you say biomedical. You mean something physical that caused this.
Well, it's interesting. That's where your mind goes, right? Because if it is biomedical, then maybe you can trace it to something that could have onset it or some things that exacerbate it. That's where things get really dangerous. This is where people get canceled, because Big Pharma, this is the biggest secret Big Pharma has been trying to keep from us, is that perhaps there is something going on with either vaccines or with medications or in our environment or untreated illnesses that result in an autism diagnosis. So would that like show up with that symptomatology. And it's very, very dangerous. This is where you go from being a mom on a quest to a mom who is, quote, gone crazy. Right? Because if you start picking at the biomedical diagnosis or the biomedical issues, you ask that question. The C word, cause. Could something have caused this? And every doctor who is trained by the mainstream medical industry will say, we don't know what causes this, which is true. The scientific community has not done the proper inquiry to figure out what causes autism. And you know, then once you go there, you find RFK and you find all those other mamas who have been silenced over the years, and all of those doctors who have been silenced over the years, and all of those papers who have been redacted, and all of those scientists that are too afraid to do that inquiry or are producing research around that inquiry. You find all of them, and then you realize, holy smokes, this is the biggest cover-up. This is, in my lifetime, probably, this is a huge cover-up. And somehow I'm in the middle of it all, you know, and I found myself married to the guy who started the company that censors all these people.
Right.
It's a big problem for me.
Yeah.
It's a big problem. It's a big problem for anyone to find themselves in.
I have a ton of respect for Nicole Shanahan because she is a powerful influence. She's a powerful archetype. The mother who has gone down that rabbit hole, and there are so many mothers who have experienced this, gone down this rabbit hole, suffered through this for years, for decades, been mocked, been humiliated, been ostracized, been threatened, been arrested, had their kids taken away from them.
That's my mom.
And now they have someone who will speak for them, a billionaire who's going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a lot of autism in your family, don't you?
Yep, 3 siblings.
Yeah, you guys would be surprised to know that Cooper is actually the normal one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested. I wanted to see I don't know if my wife is still watching right now. She's probably putting Eastwood down.
My mom's been freaking anti-vaxxer since like 2000. Everyone thought she was a loon my whole life.
She's an OG.
Yeah, she was an OG. And she was... I'm very disagreeable, my mom. But in that particular case, it was good. It worked out. Because by time... I think I only had like 1 or 2 vaccines, but by the time she was getting to me, then she was like, at that point, she just pulled the ripcord. She's like, all right, I've seen 2 of my other kids, from one day to the next, drastically changing their behavior and their capacity to function. What's the common denominator here?
Yes.
Every single time.
Yes.
Oh, it's this shit, these injections. Fuck this.
Yes.
And she just was ride or die about that. And yeah, thankfully.
Oh, so I was going to say, I was wondering if my wife was still listening, because my wife worked as a behaviorist for a while, for quite a while actually, until I met her, and for a little while after I met her. And so that was part of what caught my eye with this clip, is her talking about the behaviorists and their kind of having this really rigid model that you have to fit within this. This is basically, it's kind of like the settled science thing. The science is settled. 99% of climate scientists agree that the climate is changing or whatever. And it's like, you can't use the C word. You can't talk about causes. You can't, it's like, it's so strange that autism is like this thing that just sort of just manifested suddenly, and it just is there. And we don't know what caused it. There's nothing we can do about it, except we just got to try to figure it out. But we can't do anything to figure it out. We just have to.
Yeah, because the obvious thing that might be causing this, no, those don't cause it. We can't look into that.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
because then you'd be crazy. Conspiracy theorist.
Think and like this is. I remember it wasn't that many years ago that I grew up. I was homeschooled most of my life. I spent a lot of time in the homeschool communities. My parents homeschooled all my younger siblings. And it wasn't that long ago that my family was basically prepared to become criminals to homeschool. Mm-hmm. They were kind of expecting that was eventually going to happen. It was going to be illegal, and they were going to do it anyways and have to just figure out how to make it work.
I remember when my son was just a baby, I remember sitting at the pediatrician's office, and they wanted to give him a bunch of shots and shit like that. And, I had grown up with my mom. So, if I probably didn't feel as strongly about it as my mom did. I certainly do now, but I had a lot of questions. And I remember asking them, like, okay, so all of these things that you want to inject my son with, what are they? What's in them? What do they do? That was it. I was like, what do they do? You're a doctor, and can you explain this to me? Like, I'm not, I guess in principle, against him getting this, if you can explain to me what it does and why that's a good thing and what's in it. And they kicked us out. I had to get a new pediatrician.
They kicked you out?
Yep.
Jeez. Yeah. Yeah, Georgie Castrati says, listen, when the post-war consensus goes, the vaccine story will too. It is foundational to the narrative.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank God.
And that's what, so like the Maha people, they are, I played that clip of the pop country thing. It's like super cringy. They're, most of them are kind of, they're very boomer. They're very millennial. They're very kind of urban lib types.
My mom met RFK.
Really?
Yep. At some anti-vax event or something like that back during the campaign.
Oh yeah, the anti-vax mamas they adore RFK.
Yeah, they do.
He really got on my radar because of my mom. My mom went down a similar rabbit hole. And
She said he's like freakishly tall, like taller than you think he is.
Really?
Yeah.
I could see that. Like he looks like he's probably 6'3", 6'2", 6'3".
No.
No?
She said like really tall. And her husband, my stepdad, is 6'2". So if she's saying RFK is really tall. And I'm thinking relative to my stepdad, I'm guessing he's probably taller than that. Or maybe it's just because he's jacked. I don't know.
Yeah.
And my mom is shrinking as she gets older. She's 5'2" now or something.
But yeah, the Maha people, like I can tolerate a whole lot of the, the office millennial culture sort of vibes because they are so thoroughly, for lack of a better word, red-pilled on vaccines. And that is like a single dominating issue to so many of them. And as Georgie says, this is so foundational to the regime narrative. Like as the vaccine thing gets unpacked more and more with the defunding and streamlining all the processes within HHS, we'll talk about that here in just a second. And as those stories start being unpacked more and more, Fauci is going to be looked, he already is in a lot of ways, but I think his legacy is going to replace the placeholder that Mengele had. You know how people talk about Mengele as like the psychotic, demon-possessed, evil, like doctor who experimented on people and stuff. Fauci is going to take that role because that's legitimately what Fauci was. One of the most disgustingly evil people who has ever walked the planet. The level of the body count, this is a different kind of body count. The body count that Fauci has in his wake is nauseating. He has to go down. There has to be justice with Fauci, even if it doesn't touch any of the other people. Fauci is so central to the financial narrative, to the medical narrative, to the race narrative, to the sex narrative, because of the stuff with AIDS. Like all of the things that he's contributed to, you would be hard-pressed to find another single person that you could trace so many things back to, that influenced so many of the blights throughout the country now, that there has to be justice with Fauci.
Oh, apparently RFK 6'1". Okay, maybe my mom's just getting shorter.
Fauci. So RFK Jr. says Elon Musk and Doge are now inside the Department of HHS, exposing and eliminating massive fraud.
I'm very grateful to you and very grateful for the partnership with Doge, with Elon. We've identified extraordinary waste in my department and HHS. The expenditures, the budget of HHS during the Biden administration went up by 38%. The employees went up by 17%, and healthcare went down. We have 40 comms departments. We have 40 procurement departments. We have 40 IT departments, and we have 40 procurement, HR, none of them talking to each other. We are, with Elon's help, eliminating the redundancies. We are streamlining our department. We're going to go back to providing gold standard science. We're going to get the money to the scientists and to the patients rather than to the administrators and to the bureaucrats. And we're going to restore gold standard science, and we're going to make America healthy again.
Thank you very much.
It's just insane to think about. Under the Biden administration, the budget went up by 38%. In 4 years, 38%. And employees went up by 17%. And yet everything else got worse. 40 different comms departments, 40 different procurement departments, 40 different IT departments. Insane. It is maximal inefficiency for the sake of corruption and graft. Similarly, so that's part of the Doge effort, is streamlining all of those things. And this is why when they talk about, you know, reducing $1 trillion from the deficit, it's very believable. Because all you have to do is just take each of these agencies and just streamline their processes. Think about how much money just gets just funneled away by the sheer magnitude, expansive magnitude of all these different pipes that it has to flow through. All these different subscription services that, you know, you have 40 different IT agencies. So what, you've now got like 40 different agencies that are getting software packages, paying for like software packages to do their work, and then never using them. You know, imagine having like, I don't know, Adobe or something like that. And you need to have an Adobe license for your employees or whatever. And then you have 40 within one agency, you have 40 different departments that each have their own account. And they don't need to. They can have one for the entire agency. So just these sorts of things is I think Elon said in an interview recently, he said it's kind of like you sign up for the gym and you get your gym membership going and then you forget that it's there and it just keeps rebilling. Except in this case, it's like $20 billion, you know, just.
Yeah, man. I wonder at the end of all of this, when it's all said and done, how many companies are going to go under because they're not getting the paycheck?
Yeah. How many of these tech companies have been essentially subsidized by, they have this baseline subscription revenue that they're going to have constantly because, and you know, tech and the Democrat Party have been very, very tight for quite a while. So how many of these companies don't even have a reason to exist? The only reason they exist is because they have government contracts that are subscriptions that are not being used, that are billing in the billions every year to keep them afloat.
Yeah.
This, in addition to the Trump's executive action on February 21, telling China to GTFO, and they're trying to encourage, they're trying to force certain types of foreign investment out of the country and trying to bring foreign investment in different ways. So, like Luke Groman has made this point that the NASDAQ is the largest Belt and Road hub in the Western Hemisphere. All of these tech companies are super hyper overvalued because of things precisely like that. How many of those software companies would be worth half or less than half of what they are if they didn't have this baseline of government contracts to just sustain them with there's no like overhead associated with it. You know, they're not even using their subscriptions or their licenses or whatever. They just rebill and rebill and rebill and rebill. You don't have to do any customer support. You don't have to manage the account at all. You just know that it's going to keep rebilling. It's like it's almost like a soft nationalization of the industry just to subsidize it and keep it afloat for no reason other than just political patronage. Similarly, same thing is the case to a large extent in the Treasury. And so Trump just signed an executive order enabling the Treasury to modernize its payment system.
We have an executive order for your attention relating actually to government payments. Historically, checks issued by the Treasury are, I believe, 14 times more likely to become the subject of fraud than electronic transfer payments. This is an executive order that's going to push the Treasury Department to modernize its payment system to ensure that where possible they're using electronic methods of payment as opposed to paper checks in order to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, which is obviously an endeavor that we've been pursuing in numerous aspects of government under your leadership.
It's basically modernization of equipment and methods, and it's something that really I think he's going to be a great Secretary of the Treasury, wanted, Scott. And so we're doing this, and we have other modernization programs going on. We could let somebody else, whoever's next, whoever that may be, do it, but it's something that should have been done 25, 30 years ago. Okay. 30 years ago.
The ASMR. He's so proud. I love it when he sits there and he holds it up and shows it to everyone. He's so proud. And what you see here, there's no auto pen being employed. Isn't it interesting that all this time, all of these really important things, he always makes a huge show of sitting down and personally signing them with a frickin' Sharpie, as big and as clear and obviously as possible. There is no question whatsoever that the president has signed these executive orders. And so here's also a clip related to this from Scott Bessent talking about just kind of a quick overview of their strategy here. And then I've got a thread from Thomas777 dunking on a guy regarding tariffs.
We are under your direction. We're reprivatizing the economy. We're bringing down government spending. We're bringing down excess employment in the government sector. On the other side, we're going to re-leverage the banking system. We're going to have all the new manufacturing jobs. Everyone who's laid off from the government will have an opportunity to go into the private sector, and that is going to lead to disinflation. Inflation is under control. We're going to get the affordability crisis fixed.
Interestingly, I've noticed this and listened to Scott Bessent. He's always very careful to say disinflation. And a couple of times he's especially early on, he would say deflation, and then he would correct himself and say disinflation. And I actually had to go look and see precisely what the difference is. I was like, is this an actual substantive term, or like, why is he correcting himself on this? And it's so deflation is, you know what deflation is. Disinflation is a reduction in the rate of inflation. So when he's saying disinflation, you can read into that. You can understand they're not expecting they're not expecting things to turn around and prices to go the other direction. They're talking about slowing the rate of inflation, bringing that down. So we still have inflation, but it's not as stark as it has been.
Sector, and that is going to lead to disinflation. Inflation is under control. We're going to get the affordability crisis fixed. So lower energy, deregulation, more private sector jobs that will naturally get interest rates down. Mortgage rates are down almost every week since January 20th. The energy costs are down about 15%. Crude oil's down about 15%. And as we keep that going, interest rates are going to keep declining. It'll be good for mortgages. It'll be good for credit card debt. It'll be great for auto loans. And
then I've got this article here from Zero Hedge on a sort of related note. It says recession canceled. Again. U.S. durable goods orders back near record highs in February. So there's an interesting thing here. You know, Keynes talked about the animal spirits, and you kind of there's the hard data, there's the numbers, and then there's the soft data, or like the sentiment. And ultimately, the sentiment will rule the hard data, because it doesn't matter what the hard data says. If everyone believes that they're in a recession, then we will be in a recession, because people will begin to behave as if they're in a recession. And when you behave as if you're in a recession, then you begin to get outcomes as if you're in a recession. So there's kind of a tension here between you. Like, you could present all the hard data you want, but if people believe they're in a recession, then you're going to manifest that recession. And this is why the press and the patsies for the Zionists, the City of London, whoever you want to point the finger at. This is why there's such a concerted campaign to try to sell the notion that the economy is in really rough shape, even though a lot of the underlying numbers are beginning to look pretty decent, like this one. So after a surprising 3.2% month-over-month surge in January, U.S. durable goods orders were expected to slide in preliminary February data. However, in yet another recession-imminent narrative-crushing hard data point, orders rose 0.9% month over month, minus 1.0% expected growth. So they expected to go down 1%, and it actually went up almost 1%. And January was revised up from 3.2% month over month to 3.3% month over month. The Commerce Department's durable goods report showed commercial aircraft bookings, which are volatile from month to month, dropped 5% after nearly doubling in January. Boeing Co. reported 13 orders in February, down from 36 a month earlier. Even more notably, core durable goods orders surged 0.7% month over month, the biggest month over month jump since March of 2022. This pushed the total durable goods orders back up near record highs. Finally, core capital goods shipments, a figure that is used to help calculate equipment investment in the government's gross domestic product report, rose 0.9%, the most in a year. Not exactly recessionary signaling. Of course, the first excuse out of every talking head's mouth will be, well, it's front-running Trump's tariffs and it won't be sustainable. We shall see. And why didn't the forecasting analysts see that coming? It's almost as if there's a lot of motivated reasoning going on here. He says the partisan soft data to nonpartisan hard data decoupling continues to grow. So here is, we're now going to enjoy Thomas bodying some fools. As he
There
does.
might be something to the notion, though, that this will slide down because everyone's trying to front load ahead of tariffs. And I'm just speaking from my little tiny sliver of the world, because I have seen that to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
With my customers, like when they heard that there was going to be some tariff, because a lot of the steel companies, we get our shit from China,
mm-hmm.
and they're just like resellers or whatever here in the States. And as soon as Trump was announcing tariffs or threatening tariffs, a ton of our customers just ordered a whole bunch of stock, and now things are pretty quiet. The past 3-4 weeks were really, really freaking busy. Now things are not. So maybe there might be something to that.
Yeah. Well, and I expect that there's going to be it's completely unavoidable that for the next, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 6 months, there's going to be a lot of turmoil. We've been talking about this for months, that this is what's coming, and there's really kind of no way for there to not be turmoil, even if there wasn't a massive global concerted effort to try to throw the United States into political and economic turmoil. Even if that didn't exist, you would still probably expect some turmoil just because of the sheer amount of, when you're changing all of these different money flows and you're having to develop new contracts and negotiate and agree on them and develop new trade arrangements and set up new shipping lines and supply chains and all of that. That takes a long time. You can't just reshore in a day. You can't just build a factory overnight. Now, there are some very interesting supply chain as a service type of companies. The companies that we've talked about here before, like Hadrian, where their whole thing is basically trying to build a manufacturing facility as quickly as possible and do it in a duplicatable way so you can rapidly spin these up. I think we are going to, one of the great long-term benefits that we're going to get from this period is it's going to create demand for that. Being able to have the massive upscaling of industry very, very quickly. And it's great practice for beginning to export the building of industrial capacity to, I don't know, Greenland or Antarctica or Mars or the moon or wherever else we want to go. We're going to get our reps in now to start getting really good at doing this. But it's inevitable that there's going to be turmoil. There's going to be trouble. There's going to be, and then there are massive propaganda efforts underway to try to meme a recession into existence. And this is why you cannot blackpill, because they are precisely trying to get people to blackpill on this, to get Trump's base to lose its political will and not give him the leeway that he needs to do everything that they're trying to do. But if we get through this, if we're able to get through this next 3 to 6 months without things going completely sideways, we are going to get a level of explosive growth and development the world has never seen. It's already happening. All the different onshoring of investment from major car manufacturers to building data centers and cheap energy and all these sorts of things, and then deregulating the energy sector is going to allow for much more development and mining and pipelines and all this sort of stuff. But again, all of these things take time. You can't do these overnight. But the longer that this process continues, the better things are going to get. So Thomas, as he is wont to do, is dunking on a retard. So this guy, Spencer Kimian, founder of Tulu Capital Management, never heard of this guy before. He says, the tariffs will make us rich discourse is so damn stupid. Look at this chart. There's basically a 100% positive correlation between how poor a country is and how high their tariffs are. The richest countries on that list are at the bottom, and it's not coincidental.
Jesus. And this guy's a capital manager?
Please do not give your money to Tulu Capital Management. This is
wow.
Midwittery.
Big time.
Look, they have low tariff, they rich. They have high tariff, they not rich. Ergo, tariff make poor. This is the worst reasoning ever. So Thomas jumped on it in his own way. And he says it's part of the Ingsoc-like culture of curated nonsense. Hamiltonian economics made America the richest society that has ever existed, but allegedly protectionism is impoverishing. The same people claim, literally, that deficits don't matter. These people would argue that cancer is in fact good for you, or that your 12-year-old daughter being sold into white slavery is good because young people should have jobs. It's pointless trying to reason with them. They're the same people who insist that monetizing consumer debt is the same as selling value-added manufacturing. Because so long as somebody is turning a profit, the country is getting richer. These are like the GDP maximalists.
Yeah.
And this person replied and said that the U.S. got rich in spite of protectionism. The damage it was doing was mostly hidden by the elimination of duties within the internal market. That's also the history of Europe's enrichment in the 19th century, abolition of duties and widespread wealth. And Thomas says, no, that's the kind of flagrantly moronic argument by assertion I'm speaking of. Nascent industry is strangled in the proverbial cradle if it's not curated or subsidized under a protectionist regime. Aside from that, every great power literally owed its dominance to high protectionism. The British Empire was ultimately a planetary protectionist zone that guaranteed exclusive market access for the benefit of London. The idea that this makes countries poor is asinine beyond belief. It is flagrantly at odds with consensus reality. Adam Smith, Hume, Kant themselves, who believed in free trade quite literally as a moral imperative, admitted that in the short term, abandoning the protectionist model will make the country in question poorer, in absolute and relative terms, because that goes without saying. They believed free trade and a truly globalized financial system was a creative destruction modality that was an essential precondition to the realization of a world polity, whereby identitarian passions, national states, ethnic rivalries, power political intrigues would be eradicated. Free trade ideology has always been political. The idea it's profitable and thus necessary contra impoverishing protectionist/national models is preposterous and a blatant lie. Nobody actually thinks this. It's a moral postulate/utopian ideological tendency as much as were Marxist-Leninist claims that the laissez-faire perspective created anarchic conditions, and thus the planned economy was necessary to guarantee both justice and efficiency. Once again, we see the commies and the libertarians are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both like universalists.
Yes.
Fundamentally. Liberal universalists. Yep.
He continues, a subtext, of course, to the war between the states was that the South...
Not a coincidence that this is, these are ideas generated and promulgated by people who don't have their own homeland and are interested in global economies.
Yeah. I guess if you have a merchant economy, then it's very much, you have a merchant proclivity, then it's very much in your interest that nations do not act in their own interests, do not seek to protect their industry, do not seek to protect their workers. then you very much want as much free trade as possible so that you can play arbitrage games. So you can generate no value, and yet you can still parasitize wealth off of the so-called global economy. It's almost as if.
Almost as if. Ring the bell again.
He says the subtext, of course, of the war between the states was that the South, specifically the states that became the CSA, were free traders. The Northern protectionist regime and Washington's bias in favor of manufacturers over commodities created an untenable situation where consensus was impossible. Why was the Union blessed with limitless resources? For practical purposes, I wonder. After all, the Northern economies should have been cash and resource poor. And then the guy says, bombastic claims always insulting with very little actual reference to the periods of rapid economic growth. And here, Thomas just started dropping sources on him. Look at this. Yards of cloth produced. This is from 1805 up to 1860. Production rose almost 800% in the 3 years after the Embargo Act of 1807 and nearly quadrupled again in the next 5. But note how Great Britain almost killed the U.S. industry after peace was signed in December of 1814 by flooding the American market. This is in cloth, yards of cloth produced. The need for and effect of Madison's tariff is seen here dramatically. American production, cut 2/3 by British dumping in 1816, grew an astonishing 1,650% within 4 years of Madison's tariff becoming law. 1,640%. And look at this. By 1860, yards of cloth produced in thousands. 857,000. So this would be 857 million then in the United States.
Man, I would love to see even like broadly speaking, yes, I want like I would love I like the tariffs. I like America being very protectionist, broadly speaking, with respect to other nations. But I would even like to see states and regions be kind of protectionist with respect to the other states and regions.
I don't know if that's going to be, I don't know how doable that's
so that like regional cultures can actually start to develop.
I think that one thing we're probably going to see because it seems as if the goal of this administration is to return the Fed back to its original mandate and kind of reduce the influence of the Fed. And I get the sense that Jerome Powell would be fine with that. He's repeatedly been like, I don't know how much longer he's going to be around, but he's repeatedly been telling Congress, you guys got to get your shit together. You guys, there's only so much that I can do. You guys need to get your spending under control. And now we have a Secretary of the Treasury who's saying, we need to get our spending under control. So there seems to be a natural pragmatism to Powell. Like, even if he isn't like super crypto based or whatever, heritage American, there seems to be a pragmatism to him where he's like, look, there's only so many tools that I have in my toolkit. The Fed is not meant to be the be all end all. And so one of the things that would, I think, ultimately result, and I think this makes a ton of sense, obviously, and I think there's a good chance of it, is returning to localized interest rates. So there's no reason why, like New Jersey and Nebraska and California should all have the same rate.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. A mortgage in California and a mortgage in North Dakota should not be based off of the same rate. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And so because we have the system as it is right now, it means capital is not being allocated efficiently.
Yeah, it's basically the same. It's like it functions a lot like I don't know, like a price ceiling or a price floor. You're going to cause like shortages.
Yeah, or it's kind of like a minimum wage. Like if you made the federal minimum wage $20 an hour, then well, it's already basically that in a lot of the big or major urban centers. But I don't know, some gas station in Wyoming can't afford to pay $20 an hour to the person running the till. So there's like a similar thing with interest rates. This here is from Adam Smith. He says, as there are two cases in which it will generally be advantageous to lay some burdens upon foreign for the encouragement of domestic industry, so there are two others in which it may sometimes be a matter of deliberation. Some foreign nation may restrain by high duties or prohibition the importation of some of our manufactures into their country. Revenge in this case naturally dictates retaliation, and that we should impose the like duties and prohibitions upon the importation of some or all their manufactures into ours. There may also be good policy and retaliations of this kind, when there is a probability that they will procure the repeal of the high duties and prohibitions complained of. The recovery of a great foreign market will generally more than compensate the transitory inconvenience of paying dearer during a short time for some sorts of goods. In other words, yes, you are going to impoverish yourselves by participating, by buying into this idea of the great grand global free market, but don't worry, it's going to pay off in the long run. Yeah,
trust me.
He says, interesting how free trade zealots redact, I'm certain the oversight is unintentional, Adam Smith's exceptions from their case in chief essentially 100% of the time. And he continues, from the murder of Abraham Lincoln until the McKinley administration, the following were the policy pillars of national economic and trade policy. 1. High tariffs as a matter of course to protect the wages of domestic workers and to guard the massive home market for value-added manufacturers from competition from without. 2. Balanced budgets and a trade surplus every fiscal year. 3. Federal subsidies for infrastructure, railroads first and foremost. 4. Sound money. The mantra was that the dollar had to be good as gold vis-a-vis consumer confidence and federally issued bearer paper. What was the real-world effect of a half-century of high protectionism? From 1869 to 1900, the gross national product quadrupled. 31 years, the gross national product quadrupled. The U.S. ran budget surpluses every year from 1866 to 1893. We have a $2 trillion deficit right now. They ran budget surpluses every year for 27 years. The national debt was reduced by 2/3. By 1900, it was less than 7% of the gross national product. Customs duties provided 58% of all federal revenue from 1869 to 1900. There was no income tax, save Lincoln's wartime tax and Cleveland's brief 2% flat tax on the rich, which was declared unconstitutional. Between 1870 and 1900, commodity prices fell 58%. Real wages, despite a doubling of the U.S. population, rose 53%. 53% over like 30 years, despite the population doubling. Annual growth of the U.S. economy averaged more than 4% a year from 1870 to 1913. And from 1870 to 1913, U.S. industrial production rose 4.7% a year, compared with 2.1% a year in the United Kingdom. This is the economic model that the administration is trying to return us to.
Then meanwhile, you'll get libertarians who will look back at the history of the U.S. and argue that it was free trade that made us wealthy.
I can't...
You know what?
I can't believe that I let my mind melt in that gay little world for so long.
I know. I was just thinking about this the other day since we're dunking on libertarians again. I was listening to that, what's his name? Who's on the All In podcast? Is it Lutnick? The blowhard guy. I remember for how many years, and I have my respect and stuff for Ron Paul, but how many years, as a libertarian, and still to this day, the libertarians are saying really the only solution to handle our financial situation in the United States is we're just gonna have to grit our teeth and have a decade of suffering basically, so that we can get back to some real sound money. It's basically okay, so you're arguing that everybody, poor people starve? Because that's basically what's going to happen there. How are you guys different from communists again? But anyway, it's funny that you hear these libertarians argue, they like to present themselves as being the sophisticated economists and, business savvy capitalists and stuff like that. And then you hear Howard Lutnick or whatever talking about, their $1 million Trump cards or whatever. And it's if we sell 1 million of these, the debt
right.
and it's So you guys are saying we have to suffer for a decade and how like I have to starve or something like that, and this guy's just like, how about we just like come up with a good idea?
Yeah. Why don't we
know?
just sell our citizenship?
Like the actual businessman's just like,
Yeah.
How about we do a little protectionism and then we can just melt the debt away. Like that.
Taylor Brown says, $2 super chat. Thank you, man. He says, is Congress actually going to help cut spending? Yeah, I think that, I think definitely.
So all that is to say, libertarians are stupid and gay and retarded.
You're saying libertarians need to all die? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, they should starve. You know what? They should like subject themselves to their particular program.
Yeah. Colin Rosh says, communists and libertarians have the same end goal for society. Neither are tenable. Yes.
Yeah, they're all gay.
So the last tweet that Thomas has here, he says, you're talking literal shit, in other words. You need...
At least the commies have balls.
Yeah.
Or at least the old ones did. The original
He says
ones.
you don't even understand your own position adequately. The data rebuts everything you've alleged, obviously. Beyond that, and more importantly, the issue is what Friedrich List, Alexander Hamilton, and Joseph Schumpeter said it was. National economics is axiomatically political. There is no global community premised on a human moral consensus nor discrete individually curated hedonic preferences. The purpose of a national economics is to serve the needs of the national community, not to distribute capital across the planet most efficiently, nor to mitigate natural barriers to globalism or political integration at planetary scale. That should go without saying, but we don't even need to resort to ethical rebuttals because the claim is prima facie dishonest. Free trade doesn't make the nation richer, nor do tariffs sabotage prosperity. The latter claim especially is so at odds with reality it's almost admirable in its brazen preposterousness. You're basically insisting I accept that Bismarck's Germany, the USA during the zenith of its growth, the Japanese Empire after 1905, and the British Empire when it dominated this planet were poor and were impoverishing themselves by not sabotaging their own absolute and comparative advantage. If you're a crack smoker like the kinds of people on the Beltway who come up with this sort of garbage are, I guess that makes sense. But these are the same kinds of people who also insist there are 500 or so genders.
Yeah, man, this comparative advantage. It's like the most Jewish idea ever.
Oy vey! Oy vey! Don't you want to hear about my comparative advantage?
Well, you know, you think, I guess, in principle, in theory, you can make a good pitch about, like, you can make a logical argument for comparative advantage if you're just talking as, you know, the free trade types are wont to do, in a purely theoretical and abstract manner. That being like, oh, hey, they're better at one of my favorite memes. But like, okay, over there they make steel, and they're really good at making steel, and we make wheat, and we're really good at making wheat. Well, instead of them making steel like half-assedly and then making wheat shittily, how about we'll make the wheat, they'll make the steel, and then we'll trade, and that way we get the best steel and they get the best wheat, and vice versa, and everybody's happier as a result. And like, okay, yeah, that seems pretty logical, and I can see some situations in which that might be, you know, a smart move. But I mean, here we are, 2025 America, and all of our industry is offshored. You know,
we're drowning in debt.
How's that working for us? You
Our
know?
interest payments are larger than
The
our
culture-
extremely bloated defense budget.
Well, and then our culture is completely deracinated, and everyone's degenerate and on like fentanyl. At least that's my neck of the woods. Up here in the Midwest,
They're on
you know,
fentanyl or autism.
the Rust Belt. Yeah, for real though. It's like I'm in the Midwest, you know, where you had Detroit and Flint and Battle Creek and Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, and then you had Toledo, and you had all of these Midwestern towns that were like some of the wealthiest towns or cities in the country at the turn of the 20th century. And now it's just heroin.
Did you see
And
Scott
rust.
Bessent the clip where he said that like something like the American dream is not let them eat flat screens?
Yes, I did.
That is a bar, as they say. Yeah.
Banger.
There
are more important things than cheap widgets.
Here's our new Deputy Secretary
Aesthetic
of State.
Things.
Christopher Landau. He says over the past... Go ahead.
There was that quote from Carlyle where he makes, he's taken the idea of statistics to task. Saying basically that statistics are gay and stupid. And that fundamentally at the end of the day, if you're judging the health of a particular society, you're making an aesthetic judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You're not looking at GDP or fake stupid numbers and data and this and that. It's an aesthetic judgment. Do the people have energy? Are they out there doing stuff? Are people happy? Are they having kids?
You know, it's interesting. We've been watching The Apprentice in the King Pill Discord, and one thing that has really stood out is, was this 21 years ago? Just looking at the people, like when they're out on the street in New York City and like people are walking around or whatever, just looking at the people, there's an energy about them that doesn't exist anymore. Like not only that, they're thin, they look healthier, et cetera, like they're not fat. You don't see fat people. Everyone looks, good. Their skin looks great and everything, but people have they look lighter.
They're out there hustling.
People are friendly to each other in a way that just doesn't really exist now. You don't see just like the people just like walking, shambling along like zombies anymore. This is 20 years ago. It's not like 2005 was like peak based American prosperity, but 2005 was or 2004 was a lot better than 2025. Things have gotten so much worse since then.
Yeah, dude, if you go up to Flint, Saginaw, that area, particularly Saginaw, I think. I remember I was working up there a couple years ago when I was driving trucks through Detroit and Flint and Saginaw a lot, and like I was afraid to stop the truck at a stoplight, even in the middle of the day with cops around, because the streets literally you just had zombies. You had zombies. That's what you had. Just wandering through the street, like aimlessly, down like state highways and stuff like that, busy intersections. There was seriously dozens and dozens and dozens right downtown of just zombies walking around, falling over each other, falling over themselves. And that people just live like that.
And this is in the place that a few decades ago was like the haven of industrial wealth.
Yes. The old houses are some of the it's like you ever watch Lady and the Tramp and you see these really like, you got those old Disney movies and they have this really bucolic sort of neighborhood with these grand Victorian houses, and that is these towns. If you go through the historical district with all these houses that are all rotted and falling apart and have squatters like pissing in them, that's what they look like. And it's like, man, what did this place look like 60 years ago? And it's just ruined. It's all gone.
We're going to rebuild it.
Yep.
It's not going to take long either. It's going to be quick. It's going to be quick, fast, in a hurry.
Good. That's good. I hope so.
This is our new Deputy Secretary of State, Christopher Landau. He says, over the past several decades, the American foreign policy community seems to have forgotten these 5 simple words. It's none of our business. Not anything that happens anywhere in the world is our business, and effective diplomacy means clearly defining what our business is and is not. The absence of limitations is the enemy of statecraft. How's that for a line? The absence of limitations is the enemy of statecraft. That's very interesting. That's a very... Number one, using the term statecraft. I've noticed this happening more and more recently. People in the orbit around the administration... I'm seeing the use of the term statecraft much more. And this is a Yarvinian observation. The absence of limitations is the enemy of statecraft. Like a war on borders is a war on hierarchy. This is quite a statement. I don't really know anything about Chris Landau. He used to be the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, but this is some very interesting rhetoric coming out of it. And I think there was something. Oh yeah, I was going to read this tweet here from this. I did not expect to see Tanvi Ratna. Reinventing governance, founder re-engineered government at billions scale, tech native AI and crypto policy research for 44 governments in G20, Capitol Hill, Georgetown. This is not someone I was optimistic when I began reading this tweet. She says, the American empire isn't ending, it's evolving. Beneath the chaos is a fast, unorthodox, and deliberately underexplained strategy to reshape the U.S. role in a multipolar world. Tariffs, geopolitics, alliances, none of it's random. It's a new kind of statecraft. There it is again. Let's unpack it. Night, Taylor. As for a monetary military basis of empire, I believe this depends on the point in history you go to. The U.S. empire very much rose on the might of manufacturing exports, being the post-war factory of the world. The idea of a purely financial empire has some truth, but it isn't the full blueprint of American power. A monetary military strategy can be traced to 1971, accelerating through asset bubbles in 2000, 2008, and COVID. It's fair to argue that the limits of that model have now been reached. There's a ceiling to financialized growth, and it was overdue for those steering the ship to realize this and course correct. I don't think the MAGA blueprint mirrors the Russian post-USSR strategy. The MAGA strategy may appear incoherent because of the execution speed and the lack of an articulated vision, possibly by design, but there is a complex, unorthodox policy rationale, which is also why it draws so much flack from the old guard. In this model, the first step is redrawing America's geopolitical and economic role to reflect today's true flashpoints and imbalances. That explains the upheaval, the new alliances, and the resets being attempted through tariffs and trade. The Triffin dilemma is now coming home to roost, and the decision is to not run a trade deficit which exports industry, but to balance trade and reshore. The second key move. If trade can be reset to reshore industry, currency devaluation becomes a lever to offset price rises. But this hinges on two things. Tariffs staying under approximately 20%, and a sufficient industrial base being rebuilt in the U.S. Even if tariffs are managed, reshoring will take time. To fast-track it, a revolutionary scale of industrial policy would be needed. And then comes the labor challenge, where an AI-centered industrial strategy could be decisive. I'll share more on that soon. I don't believe the U.S. is letting go of empire. I believe it's regrouping, redrawing its tools to stay effective in a changed game. The old levers, Bretton Woods institutions, the UN, etc., no longer shape the world as they once did. The world is now truly multipolar. The previous trajectory was unsustainable. Financial and military power were overstretched, risking collapse from within, whether through military defeat or institutional failure. More importantly, trust in the ruling class was eroding, where true destabilization of empires always begins. There's a real effort underway to sustain American dominance beyond its sunset phase. The real challenge, how much of this can be done in 4 years, and how many bold moves can actually land in this year. And she's responding to Balaji here. She says, where I agree with you, angering allies complicates the path, not because the reset is wrong, but because a full-blown tariff war and geopolitical strain could break the fragile calculations behind making this work. But if it holds, America may not be fading, it might just be shifting toward a very different kind of dawn. And toward the end of the idea of angering allies and such, or supposed allies, this clip dropped today. Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
We have two options here. We either roll over as a country and he runs us over 15 times and gets what he wants, or we feel a little bit of pain and we fight like we've never fought before. I do not want to hurt other provinces on that, but I can assure you one thing, we're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population. We have two options.
Now that's a hell of a statement.
Yeah, it is.
And I saw a lot of people getting very upset about this, and I love this. This is fantastic. Give me more of this. Give me every single European leader coming out and on the record saying, we're going to make sure we inflict as much pain as possible on the American people. Because that's their actual goal. That's been their goal all along. They just bullshit about it. They're a bunch of faggy bullshitters.
Yeah, I appreciate the honesty.
Give me this honesty, because there's too many Americans who are still caught in this whimsical romantic view of the European countries. They're confusing the European nations with the European leaders. And the European leadership class is extremely hostile to the American people. They look with contempt upon but they look with contempt upon the American people. They think we're the upstart younger brother who is embarrassing and too rowdy and just needs to be reined in and controlled and patronized and longhoused. The longhouse was not born in the United States. The longhouse was born in Europe. That is the den of the longhouse. It is in Europe, the European spirit. And you guys, I had this long rant the other day. You guys across the ocean, you guys got to get your shit together. The diet Europeans north of us, the maple syrup Americans, it's not going to be as... you guys are different. You guys are different. You're going to get a choice. Your choice is going to be align with Europe and get closer to Europe. They're even talking about like Canada joining the EU. Here, I'm expecting the EU to not last as long as Trump's presidency, and Canada's talking about joining the EU. Or become part of America. Come under the umbrella of America and participate in the growth, in the explosive growth of American prosperity. That can be available to the Canadians as well. And it's going to be available to some of them, I'm pretty sure. Because Alberta's getting frosty. I mean, Alberta generally gets kind of frosty, but there's a little monologue here from this guy. Look at this guy. He's a Canadian right here.
It'd be cool to see Mexico get their shit together.
That's true. That would be. I think we're gonna wind up taking part of Mexico here in the near future too, I think. So is Alberta separation on the horizon? Powerful message from Albertan lawyer Jeffrey Rath on separating from Canada. And Steve Murray, Lieutenant Colonel Steve Murray posted this. He said, "This is growing legs for one reason. The world is tired of the parasites in office who are owned by the EU-SSR elites. This is the start of the breakup of the Commonwealth, the EU, and the UK."
So there'd be no more federal income tax. There'd be no GST. There'd be no excise tax. There'd be no carbon tax. There'd be no more equalization payments where taxes, pension, and UI benefits included. We send $70 billion plus a year to Ottawa and get less than $35 billion a year back from the rest of Canada, or Confederation as it's called. So imagine the wealth and the prosperity of this province with all of that money remaining in the province, remaining in the provincial economy. Imagine Alberta with control of its own immigration, so that where we have cities that don't have enough water, don't have enough electricity, don't have enough housing, that we can say, hang on, no vacancy, time out, until we sort out all the people that are presently here and we accommodate everybody that's here, and have a sensible immigration policy as opposed to what we've been dealing with. Imagine in Alberta where we are no longer being subject to arbitrary federal regulations because somebody in Ottawa doesn't like the shape of somebody's hunting rifle, that they just automatically declare all of our hunting rifles to be prohibited, illegal, and subject to seizure, to be shipped to the front lines in the war of Ukraine, and other stupid ideas that have come out of Ottawa in the last several years. So I'm confident on those ideas alone, getting rid of, literally, if we get rid of all federal taxation in Alberta, the take-home pay and the disposable income of every Albertan will more than double. Think about the fact that every time a working man or woman goes to the pump to fill up their truck, instead of paying $1.60 for diesel, they're paying 80 cents, which is what it should be. I mean, all of these things need to...
$1.60 or 80 cents, that's per liter. That's not per gallon. $1.60 per liter is the gas prices that they're paying. In Alberta, where the oil is, they're paying $1.60 per liter.
Is this what like an angry Canadian looks like?
Yeah.
He's making a lot of sense.
Oh
I like
yeah,
this guy.
Albertans are basically Americans. They're just like a click away from it.
Explain to the public at large to truly internalize what the benefits from an economic perspective of an independent Alberta will be. As well as and this is why we're going to Washington to talk to the U.S. administration with regard to their support for Alberta independence. From a U.S. perspective, why wouldn't they support U.S. independence or Alberta independence? President Trump recently announced at the joint session of Congress that he was fully in support of self-determination for Greenland. Surely we can hope that President Trump will also support self-determination for Alberta, because clearly it's in the U.S. interest to have a secure energy supply that isn't being subject to arbitrary regulation, production caps, emission caps, and all of these other things that Ottawa arbitrarily imposes on Alberta out of some misguided notion that anything we do in Canada is going to somehow offset all of the CO2 increases being put out by India and China, which dwarf all of our CO2 savings in Alberta and Canada on an annualized basis. So all of these things, would be dealt with within a common sense Commonwealth of Alberta, operating as an independent nation, where we're no longer subject to the idiotic whims of politicians in Ottawa who are influenced by people that belong to the investment club called the World Economic Forum, whose main purpose is simply to siphon tax dollars out of the hardworking pockets of the citizens of Alberta for the benefit of many of their get-rich-quick schemes like battery plants in Ontario and bug protein plants and all of the other foolishness that we've seen Alberta tax dollars going to subsidize. So for me, I see that this project is eminently sensible. I think we have more than enough support for it. Certainly the present government in Edmonton, the Daniel Smith's government, realizes that if there's 37% support for independence amongst the population at large, the support for independence within the UCP membership likely exceeds 60%. So, I think on that basis, the odds of having a referendum this year, thanks to Premier Smith, being forthright and coming forward and putting together a clear list of conditions for Alberta to remain in Canada to be considered by the future federal government to be decided, again, probably without Alberta's input on April 28th, that we are going to have an opportunity to have a referendum this year. And I'm sure with all of us working together, we can finally have what we've all been working towards, which is a free and independent Alberta. So that's our goal.
I like the Albertans. Fat Chipmunk here says liberalism wasn't born in the U.S. either, but I'm not sure European or Anglosphere right-wingers are ready to face that. Indeed, liberalism is a foreign import itself. One thing that he referenced there was the carbon tax, and that reminded me. I saw this going around the other day. According to this chart, the entire nation of Canada just spent 5 whole years fighting over a carbon tax that crippled the nation's economy to offset just 37 hours worth of China's carbon. So it was 50 megatons or something like that. And according to Grok, how many hours does it take China to produce 50 megatons of CO2e? Answer short, about 37 hours based on China's 2023 emissions of 11.9 gigatons annually. And all of that they produce all lands, it all comes floating right over us within a couple of days or something like that. Okay. I got a couple more stories here. Let's see. Yeah, okay, let's talk about this real quick. So the administration is now going after NPR and what is it? It's NPR and PBS. And I guess there's the people who talk about Trump being a transitional figure more than kind of like Trump is he's a Grack guy before not a Caesar. He's sort of the guy before the guy.
Yeah.
And this is one of the cases where I'm thinking that this is probably true. Because the answer here is not defund and abolish NPR and PBS. The answer here is fire every single person associated with NPR and PBS and hire us. Hire our guys. Take all of that money and redirect it into patronage for our people, for his base. That's the answer here. We need publicly funded arts for heritage Americans. But, I think that's probably a bridge too far. We're making amazing progress. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen. We're going to have to build our own thing. Fortunately, there are some of us who are beginning the process of building our own thing. Stay tuned. But, a couple interesting NPR-related stories. First of all, got this from Jarvis. He says, I listen to a lot of NPR, and my favorite tick of theirs is what I like to call the too good facts, too bad facts. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. If it's a Democrat policy or politician, they get two good facts. Quote, Kamala Harris, who is, 1, gaining in the polls, 2, has a new proposal to do a good thing. 1 is too few, and 3 is too many, so they have to get exactly 2. So Kamala Harris, who is gaining in the polls, has a new proposal to do a good thing. There's the two good facts. GOP stuff gets two bad facts. Legislation X, which has, 1, been criticized by the National Association of Sympathetic Figures, is 2, losing support among key members of the committee to do things.
Yeah, right.
He says, my favorite random bad fact was from a few years ago. NPR was doing some story about a guy that was mad at Mitch McConnell for something. I can't remember. After sympathetically portraying the dude's complaints, the reporter, with his smug-ass NPR voice, says, Mitch McConnell was once photographed standing in front of a Confederate flag. End of story. It had nothing to do with anything. The story wasn't about the Confederacy, but goddamn it, they needed to get their second bad fact to meet their quota. So, there's a reason for this.
I love listening to NPR. I love it.
Reminds me of my grandpa.
Yeah, right?
This is the CEO of NPR, Catherine Mayer.
But one of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth. They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done. But
the truth is a distraction from getting things done.
That's right.
So she is being grilled here by Representative Brandon Gill. There's a Republican representative. This is just within the last couple of days, and things went absolutely horribly for her.
It's interesting because a lot of your thinking, as expressed by your public statements, is deeply infused with economic and cultural Marxism. Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. Ha, how white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone
Seems
to pay
to be what you're
reparations, sir.
suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being
You
illegal.
tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time
You
at
tweeted
NPR.
that you read that book, but
I don't believe that I did read that book, sir.
do you think that a few years ago, NPR educated America about, quote, the whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts? Do you think that that's an appropriate use of tax dollars?
I was not at NPR at the time, sir.
That's not the question, though. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of our tax dollars?
I think our tax dollars that we use are to be able to provide a wide range of
I'll take that as a yes. You do believe that that's appropriate. Your health advisor at NPR also stated in an interview that, quote, fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat. Would you like to explain how fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat? That's an editorial at NPR.
I am not familiar with the editorial, and I don't believe that was published during my time here.
It's called Diet Culture is Everywhere. Here's how to fight it. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I think any reporting on health is an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars, yes.
And you think that editorializing that fat is not unhealthy is appropriate?
I don't know what that article is, sir, and I'm not familiar with it, so I couldn't
This
say.
is fake news. Do you think that basic accommodations like doorways or seat belts represent, quote, latent fat phobia?
I don't have an opinion.
It's also from NPR. Do you think civility is racist?
No, sir.
No. Well, your outlet ran an article entitled, quote, when civility is used as a cudgel against people of color. That was on All Things Considered. Would you like to explain?
I'm not on the editorial side, sir. I'm not familiar with that story.
You talk about how NPR is news. This is editorialization, and I'll read it. For many people of color in the United States, civility isn't so much social lubricant as it is a vehicle for containing them, preventing social mobility, and preserving the status quo. This is garbage. I'll spend all of my time doing everything I can to ensure you guys never get another dollar of taxpayer funding. This is complete garbage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That guy's going places.
Just completely torched her.
He nails the deadpan too, just over and over.
Ninja of Spaces, this guy lined up a firing line and pulled all the triggers slowly by himself. Oh, that's so good. And you know what's very interesting that stands out to me about this is if this had happened even just not that many months ago, she would not have been backpedaling and scrambling and trying to defend herself. She's like totally trying to distance herself from this, does not want to comment, does not want to be affiliated with it. She knows that the vibe has shifted. She knows that this is not stuff that you can defend in public anymore. That world is behind us and retreating in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, a year ago she would have been proud of that.
Yes. And he would have been the one that was on the defensive. Like the chair would have been like ordering him to order and letting her elaborate on whatever she wanted. You could just do things. All right. I got two more things.
How long is this going to take?
It'll be relatively quick. First one.
Okay.
Buckley Carlson This is Tucker's brother. Our father's obituary. Insufficient to say he was unique. Only truly fearless man I've ever known. Richard W. Carlson. February 10, 1941 to March 24, 2025. Richard Warner Carlson died at 84 on March 24, 2025 at home in Boca Grande, Florida after 6 weeks of illness. He refused all painkillers to the end and left this world with dignity and clarity, holding the hands of his children with his dogs at his feet. He was born February 10, 1941 at Massachusetts General Hospital to a 15-year-old Swedish-speaking girl and placed in the Home for Little Wanderers in Boston, where he developed rickets from malnutrition. His legs were bent for the rest of his life. After years in foster homes, he was placed with the Carlson family in Norwood, Massachusetts. His adoptive father, a tannery manager, died when he was 12, and he stopped attending school regularly. At 17, he was jailed for car theft, thrown out of high school for the second time, and enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps. In 1962, in search of adventure, he drove to California. He spent a year as a merchant seaman, on the SS Washington Bear, transporting cargo to ports in the Orient, and then became a reporter. Over the next decade, he was a copy boy at the LA Times, a wire service reporter for UPI, and an investigative reporter and anchor for ABC News covering the upheaval of the period. He knew virtually every compelling figure of the time, including Jim Jones, Patty Hearst, Eric Hoffer, Jerry Garcia, as well as mafia leaders and members of the Manson family. In 1965, he was badly injured reporting from the Watts riots in Los Angeles. By 1975, he was married with 2 small boys when his wife departed for Europe and didn't return. He threw himself into raising his boys, whom he often brought with him on reporting trips. At home, he educated them during 3-hour dinners on topics that ranged from the French Revolution to Bolshevik Russia, P.G. Wodehouse, the history of the American Indian, and always the eternal and unchanging nature of people. He was a free thinker and a compulsive book reader, including at red lights. He left a library of thousands of books, most dog-eared and filled with marginalia. His reading and life experiences convinced him that God is real. He had an outlaw spirit tempered by decency. In 1979, he married the love of his life, Patricia Swanson. They were together for 44 years, all of them happy. She died 16 months before he did, and he mourned her every day. In 1985, he moved to Washington to work for the Reagan administration. He spent 5 years as the director of the Voice of America and then moved to the Seychelles as the U.S. ambassador. In 1992, he became the CEO of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and later ran a division of King World Television. The last 25 years of his life were spent in work whose details were never completely clear to his family, but that was clearly interesting. He worked in dozens of countries and breakaway republics around the world and was involved in countless intrigues. He knew a number of colorful national leaders, including Rafik Hariri of Lebanon, Aslan Abashidze of Adjara, Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, and whomever runs Somaliland. He was a fundamentally non-judgmental person who was impossible to shock, and he described all of them with amused affection. He spoke to his sons every day and had lunch with them once a week for 30 years at the Metropolitan Club in Washington, always prefaced by a dice game. Throughout his life, he fervently loved dogs. Richard W. Carlson is survived by his sons, Tucker and Buckley, his beloved daughter-in-law Susie, and 5 grandchildren. He was the toughest human being anyone in his family ever knew, and also the kindest and most loyal. R.I.P. Old Dick Carlson. Memory eternal. And the very last thing. A little something to leave you guys with. God's first question in the Bible wasn't about the forbidden fruit. It was, Adam, where are you? As if the creator of everything somehow lost track of his creation. Why would an all-knowing God need to ask this? Because he wasn't seeking information. He was inviting confession. Every divine question in Scripture isn't to discover what God doesn't know, but to help humans discover what they're hiding from themselves. This is why prayer feels impossible when you're ashamed. Not because God can't find you, but because you're hiding just like Adam did. The most terrifying verse isn't about hellfire or judgment. It's this simple question that still goes through every human heart. Where are you? All right. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. It was a good one. It was a banger.
It was a good one.
Cooper's up late. Thanks for staying up with us, man.
Yeah.
I noticed our viewership kind of picked up here in the last I don't know, half an hour
Yeah,
or so.
because everyone's expecting you to just be getting started.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I was thinking it's probably because the old Glory Club stream just finished.
Wow.
And everyone came over from there. All right, guys. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. Go to kingpilled.com, join the King Pilled Discord. There's a Cash App link in the description. There's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. And go subscribe to the King Pilled Substack so that you can go through all these links if you'd like to. Go subscribe over there. And you can also, there's a paid subscription if there's if that's an easier way for you to support. Appreciate all of you guys. Thank you again to Slosher for the 10 new memberships, channel memberships, $5 a month if you would like to join that. Kingpilled.com for the King Pilled Discord. And I will be back tomorrow with another episode of the Astrolabe. Until then, you have any last thoughts, Cooper? Oh, yes. I give you Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States,